across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Petrie here with you on Talk, and I'm here until 1 o'clock in the morning. And of course, coming up at midnight, it is the phone in. It's a full hour of just you and me talking. And I think what I want to talk about with you today is it really is just the state of the nation. I think that's what it is, because I've got ideas in my head about what's going on with, let's start first of all with defence spending, okay, and the idea that there's going to have to be some pretty chunky tax increases at some point to pay for the defence of this nation. We've also got the situation, the other big story today, of course, was the 1,195 people who came across on boats on Saturday. I mean, admittedly after 6 days of a lull, but still that again is a chunky number of people coming across. And it just got me thinking about reform and the fact that they really are pretty much a one policy party, and that is that they would sort that out. That's what they're promising you, that they would sort out the boats. That's what their major selling point is. And I just wonder if you think that Labour would do better to become a one policy party. Maybe it would be about the boats, maybe it would be about the NHS. Look, the NHS is in dire straits. And I've just been looking at some public spending. We've got a public spending review coming up on June the 11th. There's a defence spending review next week, but the public spending review, so I've looked back to last year's spending review. We're broke. We're utterly broke. I mean, the numbers I were looking at, it's just like, oh, what's the point? It's just a disaster. Without more money coming in, we cannot defend this country. It is quite simply that. We can't improve the NHS, we can't stop the boats, we can't do anything. We're literally, I will go through the numbers for you if you want me to, it's pretty dry, but we're just spending way more than we're taking in, and we need to be spending way more than that if we want to do everything that we want to do. So a couple of questions really is, do you want Labour just to concentrate on one issue? And if it was just one issue, what would that issue be? In the same sense that reform really is selling itself on the basis of sorting out immigration. So what would that one issue be? I think that's the simplest question I can ask. There's more ways we can deviate off that. But when you look at the state of the world at the moment, surely defence has got to be up there, hasn't it? Or do you think, no, actually, no, I want them to sort that out first. I want them to sort out the NHS. I want them to sort out. So bearing in mind we might get taxed more to pay for this, I want you to have your say in it. So if Labour were to become a one policy party, what policy would that be? 0344 499 1000, and you can text as well if you put the word talk and then your message to 87222. So that's the phone in that's coming up at midnight. I'd love to hear your views on that and where you think Labour is failing. I mean, the list is quite long, isn't it, at the moment? But let's have a chat about that coming up at midnight. Before that, we have the fabulous Cody Darla in the studio, who's our comedy writer and podcaster, and he will be here going through Tuesday's front pages. Also, Timmy Alexis Carrington Ward will be here to tell us what's going on theatre-wise around the country. Whether you're in the West End or you want to see a show that's on tour, he will have the details for you. And Alex Three Lines Irons, of course, as it is Monday, will be talking us through the sport from the weekend. So that's what's coming up. But before that, I do want to do a bit of a deep dive into this defence review, strategic defence review. And I watched Keir Starmer doing that this morning, so you don't have to. And I just heard blah, blah, blah. I didn't really hear anything that was particularly forward-thinking. I didn't hear anything that was particularly new. I don't know. It just felt to me like a Prime Minister who was just talking the talk but really has no idea of how to walk the walk. I may be wrong. I may be wrong. Let's talk to Colonel Simon Diggins, OBE now, retired British Colonel and Defence Analyst. Simon, it's lovely to see you and to talk to you again. I found this really disappointing. I don't know about you.
I think we all are a bit disappointed, Petrie. Good evening to you. The analysis, the understanding of the geopolitical situation, it's not new what was talked about, but it's something we've heard before in terms of Russia's threat, the strategic challenge from China, including also some very interesting analysis of what might work in terms of the balance of forces. All of that was there. What was missing was having said, basically, led us up the aisle and said, we're in a pre-war situation, we need to recognise that. There was then no delivery. There was no indication about where the money's going to come from. The most we've heard is there is an ambition to get to 3% of GDP by 2034. In other words, at the fag end of the next parliament. That is not good enough. If we really are, I happen to believe we are, in a situation where potentially we might find ourselves having to confront Putin in the next 2 to 4 years, then the resources we need to do that need to be spent now and not at some magical time in the future.
I mean, look, the one thing I was thinking today as well was, look, this is going to be watched by Putin and anybody else that has got any bad intentions towards us, and I just felt that there'd just be a sigh of relief and a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, I mean, we're supposed to be a permanent 5 member of the United Nations, on the basis of our supposed global strength and our position. We are supposed to be a country that can project power and that can defend its interests, not just at home, but abroad. Currently, we can't. We have endless incursions from Russian submarines, Russian spy vessels. We know about cyber attacks. We know of attempts at sabotage within this country. That's ongoing at the moment. And here in Europe at the moment, we have a major war, the first major war of aggression since 1945, and we can't respond adequately to it. And we know that Putin's intention is to try and effectively recreate the situation at the end of the Cold War, in which case allied countries, NATO countries in the Baltics and elsewhere could well be threatened. And we are not in a position to respond. And I think the analysis is fine. Some very interesting people who conducted it, people I respect, but the resource and the commitment, the will and the commitment were missing. And also the story. What story did Prime Minister Starmer tell the British people? He said we need to defend ourselves. Well, we know that. Actually, but if we are talking about the kind of commitment you need to fight and win a war, where was that story that needs to be told to the British people? That was missing entirely.
I completely agree with that analysis, Simon. It won't surprise you to know. I did think that before you can spend or tax people or persuade people that this is a necessary burden that we have to endure, you have to explain to people why. And that I found that none of that was there. There was no urgency there. We have currently, I think we've got 9 submarines. 9. We have 70,000 soldiers in the army. I mean, it's beneath what even the government or defence would say we need. There's no plan to recruit any more soldiers until after the next election. This all is really soggy and really just non-committal. I mean, the idea that you wait for anything after the next election is pretty much saying to me, then it ceases to be my problem and my spend, and it's the next government spend if it's not us.
No, I think that's exactly it. So there's this huge gap between the rhetoric and the reality. And the reality is at the moment that we're up against a peer competitor, Russia, and we can't match them. Even collectively, Europe as a whole can't match them. We've over-relied on the Americans for generations, and the Americans under Trump have called time, and I don't blame them.
No.
I really don't blame them for that. But have we responded adequately to that? No. We've had conversations, there's been discussion, there's been lots of fluttering in the dovecotes, but actually has that turned itself into a kind of substantive plan to re-equip, to rearm, and to tell the British people why we need to do that?
Yeah.
I fear that's completely missing.
I mean, I can't help but think that despite what Donald Trump has said, despite the fact that Article 5 is optional, the NATO Article 5 is optional, that there is a sense that, it doesn't matter. If we're in real trouble, the Americans will come and help. Do you think there's a little bit of an attitude of that?
I think there is. What that's missing, and there may well be, and as we know with Donald Trump, there's a substantial amount of bargaining that goes on, and lots of noise, and then he pulls back a bit. But the missing piece from that conversation, which you're having at the moment, is what's happening elsewhere. And what's happening elsewhere is potential threats in the Pacific region, which have got a higher priority for us than Europe. So even if Trump essentially is just trying to persuade us in a rather brutal fashion to rearm and re-equip and look after ourselves, the reality of life is that he may find himself having to confront China militarily.
Yeah.
There's a lot of analysis which suggests that the Chinese, and we discussed before in the program, Petrie, that the Chinese could be prepared to invade Taiwan as early as 2027. Yeah, and that's probably on Putin's forward calendar as well. You know, when the Chinese are committed and the Americans are committed to fight Putin, to fight China over Taiwan, that's when I will make my next move. And that's the reality.
And a lot of people might be listening and going, yeah, well, it's not just us, right? You know, it's the rest of Europe, not just the EU, but the rest of Europe. You've got Finland, you've got, you know, those areas as well, that everybody needs to up their game. So maybe there'll be enough, if we all up our game just this little bit, and it's a little bit delayed, that there'll be enough of us collectively to fight the threat of Russia. What do you say to people who, I mean, I know that Germany is woefully underspent, that most countries have woefully underspent for the same reasons that we have. But can we get anywhere near collectively what we might need to defend this part of the world?
Well, we've got to start somewhere, and we are where we are. It is worth pointing out that countries like Poland, for example, their defence spend is currently 4.7% of their GDP. That's now. So it's a long way ahead of 2.4 and 2.5 if we manage to get there by 2027. And the same with the Baltics, the countries that are absolutely on the front line. And yes, countries like Germany have to step up to play as well. Whether it collectively replaces the whole of NATO, no, it probably doesn't. But that also goes to the gap, the lacuna at the heart of this conversation in terms of that Starmer started, is what would our role be? Traditionally, in the old NATO Cold War era, we were the number 2 military power within NATO. We fought over it a little bit with France, who was going to be number 2, but France always had a slightly semi-attached relationship with NATO. But are we now the number 2 power in Europe? I don't think we are. I mean, are we going to commit ourselves to Europe? Is that where our effort's going to be? Are we going to commit ourselves to the Baltic, where our Joint Expeditionary Force are doing magnificent work with our allies in that area there? Or structurally, as an armed force, are we going to continue to be what we've been up until recently, a sort of mini-me to the US? You know, the US have got 10 aircraft carriers, so we'll have 2. They're buying F-35s, and we'll buy a few F-35s, which doesn't make sense. It makes for completely incoherent and lack of cogency in terms of what we're trying to do. So those are also big questions that we have not yet got an answer to. We know as a threat, yes, we've known that for a number of years, and people have been talking about it for a number of years. We know we need to spend more money on defence, ideally with our allies, but even if we're going to be a major power that has a role in not just in Europe, but in the world itself, we have to have a responsibility to do that. And we need to have that conversation with the British people and help them to understand that it's going to involve some trade-offs, some sacrifices, in order that we can be safe for the future. Defence is really difficult because I always understand that money can be spent elsewhere. But the reality of life is, if you don't spend the money now in a kind of pre-war preparatory phase, try looking at the costs you have to spend during the war. 51% of our GDP during the Second World War is what we had to spend. That's what it called it. We were bankrupt at the end of that war. I mean, that's a situation we cannot find ourselves in. Much better to bite the bullet now, spend a bit more now, work with our allies now, recognise we're on a bit on our own, and then go forwards for the future. And hopefully that'll be sufficient to deter Putin. I'm not sure it will be, but if we don't start now, realistically, and we ain't there yet today, we've got a long way still to go.
What about the idea, I mean, I know this has been talked about for decades, but the idea of a combined European force, not the groups that we've got at the moment, the joint groups that we've got at the moment, but an entire force. Would there be an economy of scale worth looking at in that?
I think there would be, and I'm not frightened by it. I mean, I worked with European-led forces in scenarios around the world, and we tend to use the kind of NATO doctrine because that's the most well developed. But there might well be a way we can do that. And some of these forces, this is like the combined, the Joint Expeditionary Force, like the Anglo-French Reaction Force, actually are not ineffective from there. So there may well be areas where we can do that. But defence is one of those areas where you've always got to maintain a certain level of sovereign capability yourself.
Yeah.
Even just simply to have a sort of buy-in to get into the conversation about how we're going to deploy. So we're always in a slight dilemma about, can we rely on allies? And the answer is up to a point. But at a certain point, we really have got to have that independent force yourself. And I think at the moment, the reality is that the UK has got so much time, so much needs to catch up, that we can't now just turn around and say, oh, our allies will do it for us, which will be the Treasury answer, because that isn't going to work, and they will not do it for us. Their expectation is that all countries will step up to nearly the 5% of GDP mark, which I understand is going to be asked at the next NATO conference, which is twice what we're spending at the moment on a good day, and that really is a major change. But that's what Mark Rutte is talking about as being the target for NATO defence spending in the future.
But we look at countries like Turkey, right, and they have an enormous military. Where do you think that they would come to our aid, or are they more likely to go to? I mean, they're huge, Turkey, right? We could rely on them.
They are. I mean, they live in a rough neighbourhood. I mean, that's one of the things that we don't necessarily have to deal with. I mean, they've had to have forces deployed into Syria, into Iraq in the past. They border the Caucasus, which there's a whole series of fights rumbling on. They are the Black Sea is the sea to their north, which is a sort of scene of combat between the Ukrainians and Russians. And of course, let's be obviously honest, we're dealing with the Turks and into some of the Greeks. They are worried about one of their NATO allies. We have Greeks and Greeks working in Turkish headquarters, Turks working in Greek headquarters. But the fact of the reality is that there's also that underlying tension between those two countries. So I think the Turks would, but the Turks would also say we need to look to our own defence first, and not unreasonably. Yeah. They'd be saying, what are you doing? And if the answer is, oh well, we're going to do something by 2034, I'm afraid they would just laugh in our faces.
Just before I let you go, Simon, I did want to address the drone strike in Russia. I mean, this is quite an extraordinary feat. This was 18 months in the planning. It appears that they snuck drones into this area. I mean, one of them is down in Siberia, in Irkutsk, where I happen to have been. But I mean, that is a long way from Moscow, and that is a long way from Ukraine, 2,000 odd kilometres. What an audacious strike, but it seems to have been incredibly militarily successful. Let's put it that way.
No, very much so, and it's reminiscent of the Israeli attack on the Hezbollah leadership in the southern Lebanon. Long time in the planning, significant amount of intelligence, some very clever use of technology, and then employed at the right time. Now, what I learned from that is, if that's what the Ukrainians are able to do, who else is doing it at the moment? What are the Russians doing? What have they got set up waiting for us at the moment? What have the Chinese got set up waiting for us at the moment? Who else? Unfriendly actors might well have that kind of plan there. So, I mean, we can learn from that in terms of the technique. We can admire the audacity of it and congratulate them on the success of the operation, which I think in terms of prestige for Russians will hit them at a big blow. But the question I would look at is, what are we doing to defend ourselves against such attacks and against such bold manoeuvres? And it comes back then to the money. The review today talked about a cyber command being instituted. Good. I think that's a very sensible thing to try and bring things together. But that kind of attack does raise questions then about our vulnerability and our ability to defend ourselves, and the whole issue of national resilience. How resilient are we as a nation? And I would argue at the moment not very. Again, we're talking the talk. We have now got a good national resilience strategy. Yeah, if warfare was a matter of writing papers and reviews and good analysis, we'd be world leaders. Yeah, we've cracked it. Yeah, absolutely, we've cracked it. But how we actually put the money into it and recognise it costs money. If you talk about something like gas storage, in order to give us national resilience, gas storage facilities cost money. What do? We close them down.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense because we couldn't see a commercial use of them in a very short term. I mean, I'm glad that the Defence Industrial Strategy that's been at least outlined in the review today talks about building some on-call factories that we can use so we have some basic ammunition. But we need that kind of thinking across the whole spectrum of our national survival, our national self. Everything from farming through fuel supplies, through gas, through cyber, through all our critical infrastructure. What are we doing to build in that level of resilience? Which means if we're attacked, and we're already in an era of quite a grey zone of hybrid warfare, but if that's ramped up a bit, if the rheostats turned up and the heat's turned up, we can cope and don't just collapse ignominiously. So there's a lot of question marks still outstanding about what we need to do.
You make a very good point, actually, and I hadn't gone that far in my mind, that yes, it's not just the defence of the country. We need to be making sure that we are protected in so many other ways as well, in case anything. I mean, it doesn't even have to be conventional warfare, right? It just has to be something horrendous happening with the cables under the ocean, and then we're not resilient. Simon, always a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for talking to me this evening. Colonel Simon Diggins, OBE, retired British Colonel and defence analyst. Quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, this is Talk and I'm Petrie, and we are giving you the chance to win FIFA Club World Cup final tickets. Indeed. This is thanks to our friends at DAZN. Here's everything you need to know.
Hi, it's Jim White here. Here at TalkSport, we're gearing up for the Club World Cup in the United States. And to celebrate, we've got 2 tickets to the final in New York on July the 13th to give away. We'll sort flights, accommodation, and give you $5,000 spending money to spend however you like. 18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. All you have to do to enter is text the word football to 83338 by the 13th of June at 11 p.m. and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or send your name and number by post to Club World Cup Final Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on June the 18th.
This is a TalkSport limited competition run on TalkSport Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
So don't miss out on that incredible giveaway thanks to our friends over at DAZN. Good luck. New York. Amazing. Right, coming up at midnight, let me tell you about the phone-in. The phone-in I want to talk to you about is, we've just been talking there about defence and defence spending, and that has got to increase. We've got to find a way to make this country resilient to our enemies. And make no mistake about it, we are vulnerable at the moment. We know that Russia is, constantly trying to hack into things. We know that the cables under the sea are very, very vulnerable at the moment to being basically cut and destroying everything in this country, from banking to your internet. So it is interesting to me that nobody has really sold the idea that we're in this much trouble. Well, potentially we could be, but if there is a situation, and many people believe there is, that in 2027 there could be some serious advances made by Putin and by Russia, then we are in trouble indeed, and we need to be able to protect other members of NATO and protect ourselves, and not just in terms of defence, in terms of infrastructure, as Simon was saying just then. Making sure we've got enough water, that our farming is robust enough, that we have supply chains that don't rely on anything that could be hampered by Russia. So I want to know with you, I mean, look, we're pretty broke in this country. I don't know why, but we are. There's not a lot of money sloshing about. We've got debts, right? And those debts are impeding anything. So we've only got a limited amount of money to spend, and we're increasing on defence spending. So if you had to choose something that money should be spent on, what would it be? Would it be on immigration? A lot of people think that impacts everything else. So yeah, stop that and everything else becomes much cheaper. I don't think it does become much cheaper, but it would definitely save us some money, of course. But do you think that actually Labour should become a one policy party? And what policy would that be if you had to choose it? Would it be health? Would it be defence? What would it be? What do we need to have in place in this country as a number one priority? Because I'm really interested. I don't think many people will say defence, because nobody believes that is number one priority. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And joining me now is Alex Three Lines Irons, a Talk Sport producer and presenter. Alex.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Now
Back to that again.
Now I've got the two boys at home. It's all hello. Anyway, good to see you.
And you.
Talk to me about Paris Saint-Germain.
Very, very posh. They won their first ever Champions League trophy on Saturday night. They beat Inter Milan quite convincingly. A historic 5-0 victory to bring the European Championship silverware to Paris for the first time in their history. The final took place in Munich, and it was one that seemed to be pretty much over within the first 12 minutes because PSG had already gone 1-0 up in that time. You had a young PSG side with brilliant players like Desiree Doué. He scored a couple of goals during that game as well. He's also played alongside the likes of Barcelona's Lamine Yamal. We've seen them together, and we're going to see those two pretty much up against one another for quite some time because they're both still more or less teenagers. It was a rather poignant story for Luis Enrique, the coach of PSG. He's the 6th coach to win this tournament with 2 different clubs after his triumph with Barcelona in 2015. We also saw towards the end of the game a tifo, which is a banner in the stands, which was a picture of his daughter with the PSG flag placed into the centre circle of the pitch. That comes after about 10 years ago. His daughter did the same with a Barcelona flag. Since that picture was taken, though, his daughter passed away of cancer shortly after. So a rather poignant story for Luis Enrique, and a great story for Paris Saint-Germain, who have been dominant in French football for quite some time since they were bought out by the Qataris. I think in 2011 they've been aching to win this tournament, and they've finally done that. Did
we not see some trouble after the game?
Yeah, there was a bit of trouble in Paris after the game. There were, rioting in the streets. Unfortunately, 2 people were killed. Wow. And hundreds were arrested. 491 arrests in Paris alone. 192 people were injured in the overnight clashes between fans and police. A 17-year-old boy died after being stabbed in the chest in the southwest town of Dax, which I'm pretty sure is not how the French pronounce that word, while a 23-year-old man who was riding a scooter in central Paris was also killed after being hit by a vehicle. So, yeah, a lot of jubilant celebrations in Paris, but also a lot of not so lovely scenes in the capital of France.
Look, it's just so... This just always sullies sport, doesn't it? It sullies football.
Yeah.
This is why a lot of places don't want to host these tournaments, or if they do, there's a massive police presence. I mean, can't these men just behave themselves?
Not when they've been drinking, they haven't. No, but yeah. It's I think for countries not wanting to host things like the World Cup, that's a bit different. That's more of a financial thing, more than having this prestige of having that tournament in their country. But it is a shame. We maybe aren't seeing it as much now in England. We saw Crystal Palace win their first ever FA Cup this season. They had their bus parade on the bank holiday weekend last weekend, and as far as I'm aware, there weren't any trouble. There wasn't any trouble there. Say with Spurs having their Europa League bus parade, and with Arsenal women's having theirs as well. But I'd expect there to be trouble with the men's, not necessarily with the women's game. So it is a big competition, and I can see why fans get excited and want to get out onto the streets and celebrate, but this is not the way to do that. And unfortunately, 2 people have lost their lives in the aftermath.
Yeah, that's just such an unnecessary tragedy. It really is. Speaking of the women's game, England's Lionesses gear up for Euro 25.
Yeah, with a bit of a thrashing as well. Speaking of, they beat Portugal 6-0 in their Europa Nations League Group A clash between the two sides. All eyes at the beginning were on goalkeeper Hannah Hampton after a rocky week for the England squad. That was with Mary Earps announcing her retirement from the England internationals. Of course, she was in the goalkeeper during the Euros and the last World Cup as well, and has become a very popular figure in the England camp and in English football as a whole. A lot of kids wanting to have her shirt after the World Cup finals, and Adidas, who originally weren't selling them, then changed their minds and sold them because of the backlash from people wanting to buy those shirts. But it was Chelsea forward Aggie Beever-Jones who was the star of the show on Friday night, scoring her first England hat-trick and a 6-0 thumping of Portugal in the Women's Nations League. The 21-year-old's hat-trick came in just 33 minutes, so England in great form at the moment. Of course, the manager even said, Savina Wiegman said, it was back to business after the game, which, England over the past year have had a bit of a shaky start, a shaky run of form, but it looks like England are now back and in full flow for the Euros coming up later this year. It's in July, so later in the summer we'll have the Women's Euros over in Switzerland, and it's nice to actually have the spotlight on the women's game with the men taking a bit of a break. I mean, they've got the Club World Cup, but who's watching that really?
No, I mean, no, they want to watch decent football, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
With women who don't grab their knee and fall over and pretend to be injured.
Well, they might grab their knee and fall over, but that's because it hurts,
because they're pretending. They're not overly dramatic. Record-breaking attendance sees Oldham beat Southend.
Yes, over 52,000 people at Wembley to watch a National League playoff final. That's the 5th level of English football, by the way, which is anywhere else in the world would be completely unheard of. But there were over 52,000 people between Oldham to watch Oldham and Southend, two teams that have been in the Football League, and both, even Oldham, have been in the Premier League. They were in the first ever Premier League, so they're the only team to have come all the way down from the Premier League to non-league football. And it looks like that run is going to come to an end because Oldham have been promoted. They beat Southend 3-2, scoring 2 goals deep into extra time to snatch an incredible 3-2 win against Southend in the National League promotion final. Those winners came in the 109th and 110th minute. So with 10 minutes to go, Southend being 2-1 up, and Oldham grabbed 2 quick goals to send the Latics fans back to Oldham in a very jubilant mood.
But how did they fit, if they're not used to crowds like that, how did they even fit them in?
So Wembley has a capacity of 90,000.
Okay, so they were playing at Wembley.
It was at Wembley, so there was no, a lot of, I think they had a smaller allocation and both sides wanted more and more tickets, and eventually both sides had around about, I think, 28,000 each allocation. Of course, 52,000 is a little bit less than both of those together, but they, both sides have done remarkably well. They were both well-supported sides in the National League, and they were both greatly supported Football League sides as well. And both of them haven't had a great run in regards to their recent history. Southend nearly went out of business altogether. They were nearly found to be wound up in court orders. Of course, we've now seen them at Wembley in the playoff final. Both teams also didn't finish that high up the table. I think they were 5th and 7th respectively. And there's been a bit of conversation about 3 up, 3 down, which is only one goes up automatically from the National League into League Two. There has been a bit of a campaign for 3 clubs to now go up from the National League into League Two, and of course that means 3 will come down. That's played out more and more, especially with both teams doing incredibly well to have over 52,000 people at Wembley to watch them. But York, who did quite well, they finished second. They were a couple of points behind Barnet, who were promoted as champions. York were knocked out of the playoffs in the first playoff round, and they finished about 25 points ahead of Oldham and more than that ahead of Southend.
Wow.
So they're not very happy with the way that things are at the moment. They've actually put in a bit of a complaint to say, look, we finished with more points than the 2 teams that got to the final. We feel like there should be more teams going up, and it looks like that could be going to happen within the next year or 2 if more clubs are going to get behind it, which the National League clubs definitely are, but it might take some of the EFL clubs a bit more persuading.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to hear that clubs at this level, though, are getting that level of support, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Both of those clubs are massive in their area.
Yeah.
Southend, one of the biggest clubs in Essex, and as I said, they've had horrible moments over the past couple of years to the point where they even nearly stopped existing. And Oldham have not had a great run over past years, getting relegated down to National League, and it looks like they'll be bouncing their way back into the Football League. So two massive clubs from their areas, and it's good to see so many people come out and support those.
And
their
how
local
often do
team.
those smaller clubs get to play in Wembley? Is that?
Not very often.
So that might be the reason for this huge turnout. Is people going, well, we're not going to get a chance to see our team in Wembley very often.
There is that. There is also the fact that it's a massive game to get back into the Football League. It's a playoff final. And if you're a fan of either of those sides, even if you're from the local area, you'll go, Southend, Oldham, at Wembley, yeah, I'll be there. I'll support the local team. They might not go every week in, week out, but those are the games that people make a real effort
exactly. No, it's good to see. Alex, thank you. Good to see you. See you next week. Alex, 3 Lions Irons, talkSPORT producer and presenter there. Right, stand by your beds because Timmy Alexis Carrington Ward is next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. Yep, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And just a reminder that Cody Darla will be here in the studio at the top of the hour to go through Tuesday's newspapers for us. But first, as I said, joining me now is Timmy Alexis Carrington Ward, broadcaster and host of the Here She Is show on YouTube. There she is. Who's going to look at some theatre news for us? How are you doing? Have you dyed your hair?
No, it's just I'm in a new location. I'm on my holidays.
Oh, yeah. You've dyed your
Can I
hair.
ask you something?
What?
Your throat sounds very poorly tonight.
I know. I think I just said to Gabrielle, I think I'm losing my voice. And she said, don't you dare. Like I'm doing it deliberately.
You're sounding very much like Madge from Neighbours.
Thank you. I've always aspired to be.
And you look like Harold.
I look like Harold. Thank you. Yeah, I thought that.
What do you want to know, Petrie Hosken?
I want to know what shows are touring.
Oh, you're a tourer first, aren't you?
A tourer first.
We have got, which is starting in Leicester, in October, Matilda is going out on tour. Have you seen Matilda?
I haven't, no.
It's do you know what? I don't like the story. It's because they don't want the little girl.
Oh.
But the people I'm staying with love the show, so they'll be loving that it's touring. That will go everywhere. That's a tour 1 production, so that will go to big theatres. But that's honestly, the little girl that plays Matilda is just bonkersly good. Just amazing.
So it's the same show that was in the West End, and that's with the same cast, just going and on.
Not the same cast. There'll be different casts because they'll be in the West End. Petrie, it's still staying in the.
Oh,
West.
Is it? Oh, okay.
It's a good job I'm here, isn't it, Petrie?
Yeah,
because
I don't know these things.
The West End cast touring, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would have that.
You would. So I've saved you a disappointment. But they'll be just equally as good.
Yeah. Okay. So Matilda will be touring, and what else is out there?
And another thing that is touring, and this is very exciting, and you'll go, really? It's a play that I saw at the National called Dear England. Do you know anything about it?
Oh, is this the football one?
Absolutely. So it's about, remember Gareth Southgate? Do you know that? I mean, come on. I didn't know that. I had to look it up and everything before I went. And I went with my niece's boyfriend, who was sat beside me saying, this happened, blah, 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 because I'm like, anything to do with football. But basically, Gareth Southgate lost the penalty and we lost the cup. So it's been with him forever. Then he went and
that one, yeah.
No football will know this. And then he went to manage the England team. And he had this new approach by bringing a psychologist in who was Pippa Grange. And it was, so it was all coming together rather than, oh, yeah, you missed that penalty. It's like, don't worry, we're a team. So it was real, all psychological. And it was very famous that he wrote in the paper a sort of like an affirmation, Dear England. And that's why it's called Dear England.
Okay.
Today we are going to be this and this and all think positively for us. Now, you won't know this, I didn't know this, but Gareth Southgate did break the spell of, because the England team aren't very good at taking penalties. They always collapse on, but he broke the spell. So I think they won somewhere along the way on penalties, I think. But honestly, it's written by James Gareth, and he's done such an amazing thing. It's for somebody like me who doesn't. When my other half took me to see this, I'm like, "What are you taking?"
I remember we talked before you went, and you go, "I'm dreading this."
It was a lads' night out.
It was a lads' night out, which isn't you.
Our nieces' boyfriends and husbands.
And you went to see a show about football, which made me laugh, obviously.
I was really scared.
Yeah.
I was like, not scared as in all football, but I'm just like, as if I'm going to enjoy this. But honestly, David and I, my other half, cried at the end of the first half even. It's so good.
Is that because you didn't have any wine?
I was crying because I didn't have any wine and because I'd gone with David.
Yeah.
So it was a double tragedy for me. And they lost the penalty as well. Spoiler. Yeah,
but it's good for people who don't like football. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people will think, oh, I don't want to go and see it because it's about football.
Everybody. I mean, people look at you and think, oh, she must like football because you've got footballers' legs, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
But we know you don't. But you could go and enjoy it. I promise you, whoever you are, you will enjoy this. If you know your football and you know all what happened, great. It's still absolutely so entertaining, and it deals with the racism they got. For the black guys on the team, the homophobia, everything is all there. It's brilliant. And the set at the National, I can't tell you what it's going to be like on tour, but I imagine it's the same. It's a little bit like, you know, when you're on a Zoom call and you've got a round light that people put in front of them. It's a big thing like that, and it all goes round. It's so amazing. It's going on tour because it was at the National, and it's starting in Plymouth on the 15th of September. So that will be a big tour. So everybody look out for that and go. Honestly, it's amazing. It's another one of my top. Well, it's a top play. I would not have believed I would enjoy it, but oh my goodness, what a night. It's amazing.
That is praise indeed, yeah. I can say. So go and see that. That's Dear England, going on tour starting on the 15th of September down in Plymouth. West End, what's happening in the West End?
Okay. So I have to do this one because my husband is the company manager, David Massey.
He's backstage, you mean?
He's backstage. He does bits and bobs. The Trafalgar Theatre, and that is booking till March. But what I wanted to say about Clueless is I went to the first night, obviously, and most of his first nights I go to, I'm like, ooh, because I don't know what to expect. This is it says what it does on the can. Is that the right expression?
Does what it says on the tin, yeah. Similar.
And I'm a bit American. I say can. But anyway, it's totally like a Legally Blonde. It's exactly as you expect. So, because theatre tickets are so expensive now, you can go to this and you will know what you're getting. So if you like this sort of, like I say, Legally Blonde, and Clueless was apparently, I mean, a massive film for, I think, the generation below us. So people in their 40s, I think, watched it. Although even my niece and things is their favorite movie. So it's basically on that. And apparently, I mean, I've seen it, but I didn't know this, but because you can hear in the audience, people are cheering because they've got the same outfits on and everything as the film. So it's a real, this is what I'm paying my money for. This is what I'm going to get. I won't be disappointed if I take the kids or I take all the family. That will be money where I knew it was going to be.
Okay, so Clueless. Any big names in it?
No.
Oh, well, that's interesting. But just real talent, just proper talented
real
people.
Talent,
yeah.
And
okay.
they do wear quite short skirts in there, so you do get a glimpse of their talent when they're in the show.
That's good. That's really good to know. What else is in the West End?
I've got Titanic, which is...
Is it sort of like Titanic?
Funny enough, yeah. But they're going round the Titanic Museum.
Right.
Basically, I'm saying this because they're getting a new cast in. Now, I want to say, you can still go because I would recommend this woman, Lauren Drew, who plays Celine Dion. Now, they're going on a tour around a museum. Celine Dion turns up. She says, I was on the Titanic. And it's a comedy. It's as camp
a
row of tents. It's so camp. And she plays Celine Dion so well, just amazingly well, because you know how she's a little bit bonkers.
Yeah.
So she comes on, hi girlfriends, all this, and it's all throughout. I don't know how she's got the energy, but it's very camp take on. She explains what happens on the ship, and you go through all of that. It's high camp. That's all I can say. It's just a fun night. It's there's no interval, but you don't feel it. I think it was an hour and a half. You don't feel it. It's just amazing. It is amazing. I liked it. It is what it is again. But yeah, go and see the Celine Dion character because she's amazing. Lauren Drew.
Drew.
She's staying, but the other cast, some of the other characters are changing. But as long as she's in it, no problem.
Perfect. Evita is still on.
Evita, it's on the 14th of June, and it's going to be at the Palladium. Now, Evita, Elaine Page made famous, didn't she?
She did. Well, I think Evita was quite famous before that, but the show.
I didn't know her.
Did you not? No.
No. That's on at the Palladium, and that's on for a short run. We've also got Fiddler on the Roof at the Barbican, which is already on. But no, I'm so sorry. It's on until the 19th of July at the Barbican. That's right. Fiddler on the Roof. Not a fan myself, but lots of people love it.
Yeah, so, most people will know the music without knowing why they know the music as well. It's one of those, isn't it? And
again, going back to how much theatre tickets are and everything, that'll be a you know what you're getting type of musical.
But don't you think in a way that theatre is becoming like the movies? You and I always talk about films, and I say... You know, but what I mean is that I'm American. No, it's the sequels and the prequels and the gequels. That the West End is kind of having to appeal to that, not nostalgia as much, but you know what you're going to get. I think people, when they go to the cinema, have to know what they're going to get rather than being surprised.
And I'm going back because of the price of theatre.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are risking it on new shows because it's so much. It's so much. And you put together, you travel there, you'll have a meal, however many people are going, then you travel back and everything. I mean, I know there are some, you can get tickets for 200 quid, the best tickets in the house. I mean,
that is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But is that why we're seeing things like a lot more theatre shows about films like Back to the Future and things like that, because it's a safe bet in a way?
Yeah. People know, and I always think it's a bit dangerous if they do a film, if they deviate from it. You just don't want anything. I mean, the best show that I did see for being exactly like it was as well was Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
It was, and things like that, or Back to the Future, when you're taking your kids, You want them to be entertained. You don't want slow ballads here and slow ballads there that aren't in the films or anything. I think try and keep it as close to the films and to the films
But
as.
I think that in a way, I think that's a shame. I think it's a shame also that every time there's a new film out, that it's a blooming sequel or a prequel or, like I said, a geekquel or something in the sphere of that film. But I suppose that's the safe bet. It costs a lot of money to put a show on.
How are you in rehearsals yet for your panto that you're doing next year?
Yeah, I started. Yeah.
Have you? How are you vocally?
No, it's a lie, by the way. I just had Yana, my vision mixer, turn around like that. What?
I'm campaigning, everybody, for Petrie Hoskens to do a pantomime. I will rehearse her and get her up to scratch.
It's not going to happen ever. I mean, I am doing a stage show on Saturday, this Saturday.
Are you with that vocal?
I know, I'm going to have to rest my voice. But it's a podcast that I'm doing, live podcast. So I won't be singing. I'm not going to be singing.
I've heard Petrie Hosken sing on a few nights at her house after a few bevies. I think she's all right. I've had a few bevies as well.
Only because you're drunk as well.
Yeah.
But even you're like, Christ.
I've got more. Have we got not time?
Oh, not really. You can very quickly.
Very quickly. You know the play that goes wrong?
Yeah.
They're amazing. There's a company, they've formed themselves and they do plays that go wrong. They did Peter Pan and things like that. They've got a comedy about spies, it's actually called, at the Noel Coward Theatre. There, you can get a standard ticket for 20 quid, so that's good.
That's good.
And that ends on the 5th of September.
Brilliant. Timothy, thank you. Timmy Alexis Carrington Ward. I will see you soon. I'd love to Deaf Steph and everyone. Right, that's it for me for this hour. But coming up is Cody Darla with the papers.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. It is great to have your company, and it is Petrie here with you. And with me, I'm thrilled and delighted to say, has become something of a regular now. Can't get rid of him. He's just hanging about. It's Cody Darler, comedy writer and podcaster, and he's also on TikTok. Please go and watch him. He is brilliant. Mr. Cody Darler is his handle.
It is, yeah.
It's his handle. You've been. I saw that there might be a return to the babysitter. You've had to let Elon go.
I have
but
had to, yeah.
There was a little twist at the end of that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're appreciating the storytelling.
Oh.
I was a bit saddened by the number of people being like, oh no, it's such a shame he's gone. I'm like, you're not even watching the whole video.
You didn't watch
Just
it.
watch the
I
whole
saw
video and you'll understand that I'm giving you what you want.
Exactly that. So Cody does this set of being the babysitter to the billionaires, to Donald Trump's billionaires. So there's Sweet Baby Mark.
Yeah, Sweet Baby Moron Mark.
Moron Mark, that's right. Eggy Head Jeff.
Big head like an egg Jeff, yeah. Jeff Bezos.
And then Evil Elon.
Yeah, naughty boy Elon Musk, I think.
Yeah.
So
he was leaving because, of course, he's supposedly leaving Doge.
Yeah.
But right at the end, he got a phone call saying he's got to stay.
If you've not got TikTok already, I've not heard a greater, more compelling argument to download it.
Download it and watch it.
Retelling
it's very funny. It's very funny. I was very relieved to hear the babysitter was not going into retirement. Right, Cody, before we get into the papers, we had the defence review today, and I'm sort of, that's my anorak thing, is defence, right? I'm really into it.
This is your specialist subject.
It's my specialist subject. If I were to have one, it would be that. And I was actually very disappointed by this, and I spoke to somebody earlier on who was saying, the argument for spending more money on a war footing has not been made to the British public. And so I was just wondering, when people think about where priorities should be for this country, where would you put them? So if you were to be able to sit down with Keir Starmer and say, right, your one policy should be, what would it be?
Oh, as in, if Keir Starmer should pick a single policy
like we have with reform.
Right.
I mean, although somebody's arguing they're not a one-policy party, they very much are, although they've got other little satellite things coming in. But they're very much, everybody knows them for that, we're going to sort out immigration.
Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult... I mean, that literally divides on political colours, I think. I mean, I would say as a lefty that it's got to be like, public investment and social change and investing in schools and hospitals and things that actual people in Britain feel on a daily basis. But defence is, and I think that's why it becomes a difficult topic, because it is such a kind of such an alien concept in a way that we would ever be invaded or something. And I know that's not what most defence spending goes on, but I think it would never be defence for me. But I understand it's kind of separate to politics. I'm like, there's politics, and then there's this section that's obviously like, oh yeah, we kind of, in the world of Trump and Putin, I guess we do need to invest in actually protecting the nation on a literal physical level. Yeah. But yeah, that kind of, in my mind, political wise, is separate. It's not really politics. It's kind of no-brainer.
Because it is really interesting, because it will become politics when Rachel Reeves in October says, I'm going to have to tax you more to pay for defence. Yeah. And if the argument hasn't been made as to why that mattered, because we've had 80 years of peace, right? We've had the longest period in history without having to be on a war footing. Those days are over. It is over, one way or the other. We have to pick our allies, we have to pick our friends, and we have to rearm ourselves to a decent level. Otherwise, we're in real trouble.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the biggest thing though is Trump, isn't it? Trump and J.D. Vance. I mean, it was 3 months ago that he made that big speech at the Munich Defence Conference and was like, "You're on your own." Yeah, and I mean, that's the biggest change. I mean, I think it's like you. I mean, you are literally the expert in this field, so I might be talking nonsense, but like, you're absolutely right. We've known peace for 80 years thereabouts. But like, the Americans have just been funding NATO pretty much, and now the Americans are like, "No, we're not going to do it," which is the reason we're having to spend more. It's not like this newfound...
Well, I mean, to say they've been funding NATO is slightly off. They've been funding themselves. Sure. So they've, and because of that, they've become the biggest spender of, the biggest spender in that sense, because they've got a bigger military and they've spent more money on their military, and they're going to spend even more money on their military. But that's about them, I think. That's, the the only time that Article 5 was ever triggered, and that is hit one, hit them all, and then we all join in, was 9/11. That the rest of the world went to the help of America.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's the only one time that it's been triggered since it was established. And that's what annoys me when I hear Trump going, well, if we needed any help, they wouldn't come and help us. And I'm going, literally the only time that was required, we came to help you. And by the way, we didn't give you a bill. We haven't charged you for that.
Can we do that now? Can we go back?
I wish we could.
Can we slap them with a bill now?
And then just say, you know how you're trying to take money out of Ukraine?
Yeah.
Right, pay us.
Boom, 9/11. Remember that?
9/11, remember that. But he's completely forgotten. Well, I don't think he's forgotten it. I just don't think he has any understanding of history. But literally the only time. But the thing is with Article 5 is it is optional. I always believed that that when Article 5 was triggered, which is, you attack me, you attack all of NATO, therefore we all come to the defence of the country that's attacked, it's optional.
Oh.
Yeah. So we have to be very careful that if there is an attack on NATO and America choose not to support us, they can choose not to support us.
Oh, well, that feels like nonsense then. It's null and void. It's not real then, is it?
No.
I thought it was an automatic thing.
No.
A bit like a sort of club card.
Yeah.
You're like, I've got no choice.
Yeah.
Oh, how weird.
You don't have to.
Well, but that's the yes. I mean, like you say, going back to the funding. I mean, America fund about. As I remember, Jeremy Hunt. He was talking about this months ago, and he's been interviewed on one of the podcasts. And he was like, when he was Foreign Secretary, he was like, "How much does America actually spend on it?" And everyone was like, "I don't really know." And they did a bit of research, and they were like, "I think it's about 50%." And you're right. It is like it's in their own interest. If
it is in their own interest.
The person in the White House followed logic and reason. Because it's like, obviously, if Europe, bloody hell, World War I and II, if Europe falls, then America's in trouble. But it's just only because we've got some sort of orange idiot in the White House that doesn't seem bothered about it.
But America didn't want to be part of the Second World War.
No.
They resisted it,
really.
or the first. And they didn't come in until the last minute. And that was only because they themselves were attacked.
Yeah.
So, and they had a lot of old weapons they wanted to get rid of to support their defence industry.
Yeah. But if it wasn't for them, we'd be speaking German, of course. So.
Well, according to them. I think, but look, there's no doubt about it that they helped, they did help, and we would be in real trouble if they hadn't come at that stage, but it wouldn't have got to that stage if they'd come in earlier.
Yeah, of course. I mean, hey...
But that was before NATO.
Yeah, totally. There's nothing funner than reading the history books and being like, oh, wow, actually, America's sort of bad. They were baddies at one point. They were baddies at one point. Or at the very least, sort of... fence sitters, which
they just didn't want to have
in this economy
they didn't
everyone
want to have a bar
hates.
with it. They didn't want to have a bar with it. But it's optional, which is great.
Well, that makes me feel a lot less safe.
I'm glad. But do you know what? This is actually what the public need to be told. That this isn't a given. It's nothing. If we are attacked, if even if places like Lithuania or Estonia or somewhere like that, if they, that's a bad thing, and we're going to have to, even if they're not part of NATO, we're going to have to jump in and do something because,
you see, but you're going to have, the nation's not going to sleep. It depends how much you tell us about this kind of stuff. We'll stop sleeping, and then our kind of economic output will be less because we're so terrified, and then there'll be fewer taxes, and then boom, you've got to raise more on defence. It's a doom loop.
Guys your age should be really looking at the government to recruit more, build up defence, so that you don't get called.
I wondered where that was going. Yeah, so we don't get called up.
So back defence is what I'm saying.
I could do a little skit on the Lithuanian border. I reckon that would get me a lot of views.
Just back defence. Right, let's have a look at the New York Times. New ICE playbook. This is the what are they called?
The
immigration people. That's right. They are. It seems to be. I just find it really weird. There's images here of ICE covering their faces, and they don't look like agents, but why are they covering their faces? And they appear to be going around and arresting people at odd places, in odd not in places you'd imagine if they're just looking for criminals.
Yeah, they sort of look like the people that turn up and pretend to be like the police on your, you ever get that, like bailiff people?
Yeah,
Like
if somebody approached me like that with their faces, I would resist. I'm not.
Yeah.
They don't look official, right?
No, they really don't. They're wearing ripped jeans.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's the person being taken away.
But the others are.
They are wearing jeans.
Yeah. But this is a hearing on Tuesday at an immigration court in California. Was supposed to be routine for a young family from Colombia, the first step in what they hoped would be a successful bid for asylum. So they went there to court officially in their bid for asylum, and to their surprise, the judge dismissed the deportation case, and they were arrested. It just seems to be hell on earth, that whole thing at the moment.
Yeah, I can't imagine how uneasy anyone, because I think we spoke about this last time I was on here. The number of people being deported to like El Salvador who have a right to be in America.
Yeah,
it's literally like there's no. It seems to be random, which I guess is like the sort of policy that exerts maximum fear. It could be literally anyone.
It literally could be anybody.
I mean, this is someone like trying to pursue a legal route.
Yeah,
and there's
trying to do
arrested.
the right thing, and they're getting deported. Disdain of the EU rises as theme for US right. The United States populist right has its calling cards, Make America Great Again, hats, a distaste for immigration and a love of tax cuts. But a more subtle unifying thread has been creeping in. That's because MAGA deeply dislikes the European Union. For no reason. They've probably never been to Europe. They think Europe is one country for a start. They've never been to the EU. They probably don't even know what the EU is.
Yeah.
But of course, Trump says it was only set up to destroy America.
Yeah.
I mean, how big an ego is that?
I think I'd like them to name an EU country.
I would like them to name an EU country and point to it on a map.
Yeah, I think maybe we should start introducing that as a prerequisite for most policy positions.
Yeah, if you're gonna slag it off, tell us where it is. Yeah.
Like, tell me what you're slagging off exactly, and then I'll listen. But you're right. I think, what was it? Yeah, Trump said about the tariffs. Yeah, it was designed to rip off America.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a trading bloc.
But he doesn't understand what it is, I don't think.
No, but
I'd like him to name every EU country.
Yeah, he absolutely couldn't. So the right now hate the EU.
I know, shock horror. It doesn't sound like them.
Yeah. And of course, Pete Hegseth has called America's European allies pathetic. They don't. Yeah.
Did you find that out in a WhatsApp group?
We're on our own, folks. Let me show you a picture of the New York Times, if you can see that. It's a very busy front page, actually. I really admire American newspapers because they cram as much as they possibly can.
It looks like newspapers used to in the 1890s.
It really does, really does. Loads and loads of stuff on that, and some disturbing images of Gaza as well. Let's have a look at the Times newspaper. Embrace the future of AI doctors and nurses. What do you think, Cody?
Yeah, sounds sensible. And then you see the two words, urges Blair, at the end.
Yeah, I wish you would just... You've had your chance,
I love
mate.
how you sort of self-edited him out there.
Yeah, I'm bored of him, that's why.
Yeah, embrace the future of AI, of course. I mean, I think... But this is again, a no-brainer, isn't it? The application of AI in, like, medicine, I think, is pretty well
Look,
known.
I love AI in medicine, but an AI doctor.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's the worry. Britain should lead the way with AI doctors and nurses. I mean, that's the only time you actually meet human beings in the NHS. The rest of it is all technology.
Oh, I see.
So, I mean, I love AI in medicine is brilliant, and even in surgery, right? They can use computers and robots to do really intricate surgeries. But if you're sat in front of a computer...
Like a Siri doctor.
Yeah, and you have to give them your, these are my symptoms, and they go, OK, put your whatever it is in front of this camera.
Yeah.
Let me have a look at it in an AI robotic kind of way, and then they'll go, "Oh yeah, that's nothing." I want people.
That is quite interesting because I think this is perhaps more of an experience for women in women's health. The number of you see a lot of this on social media. A lot of women go to their GPs and they're like, I've got this problem, and the GP's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if it was an AI doctor and they'd be like, I've got this symptom, this thing, and if it was all roboty,
it wouldn't be misogynistic.
Yeah, and it might be like, oh, could be this. It might result in kind of better diagnostics.
Yeah, well, why not train doctors to be better?
Yeah, that's a good thing. As long as
women's-
they don't train the AI model on actual GPs.
on an actual male
Then,
GP.
then it'd just be your sort of-
Actually, some female GPs are the worst. I mean, they're the worst when it comes to
women can be bad as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just a case of a couple of my girlfriends have sort of gone to female GPs for HRT and things like that, and the women will go, I went through it, absolutely fine, you get on with it.
This is interesting, yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, but you might have gone. I don't want to.
Yes, I think
So some
also,
women
it seems to
doctors
be a
can
thing
be a
with
bit-
GPs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so overworked, and it's just like they can't be bothered to do the paper. I mean, I don't want to say that as a rule. I don't know that to be true, but like it's definitely quite common to be misdiagnosed by a GP.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say that my GP is just brilliant, and I know that I'm very lucky. But I wouldn't want them replaced by a screen. But then you wouldn't have to go in, would you? You'd just do it at home.
Yeah, you'd hope not.
What about nurses, though? I mean, when you're feeling unwell and you're lying in a hospital bed and you've got some robot coming along.
I think the most powerful impact of a nurse is their homely manner.
Do you?
You don't get that from
Have
AI.
you been in hospital recently?
I have been maybe not recently, but when I was in hospital, they have a calming human presence. Yeah, it was. We're staying at the Hilton. It was all private, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, the nurses are more human touch, I think.
I don't think we should go to. I don't think we should go to. That sort of thing.
No.
Here we go. This is where I said it would affect you. Tax rises loom to put Britain on a war footing. We are going to be asked to pay a lot more. It's got to go up to. I mean, at the moment, the extra $6 billion is coming from our overseas aid budget.
Yeah, which sounds incredibly sensible.
It sounds insensible. Yeah. But we need a bigger army, more reservists. We need to retain the military that we've got. They're all leaving. There's more leaving than joining.
Yeah.
And we need to be in a better position. So you're going to have to pay more.
Yeah. So I feel like I should clarify that I don't think taking from the foreign aid budget is
I didn't think you would.
I wasn't sure whether the sarcasm didn't really come through the way I wanted it to. But that is mad that we take money away, like that money is used to
as soft power perhaps to stop a war.
Quite literally to stop wars. It's not out of the goodness of Britain's heart. I think this is the kind of PR it has, where it's like bloody Britain, like charity starts at home.
Yeah.
It's like Britain has never been nice to anyone. Like we're not doing this to be nice. We're doing it to stop like the terrorists of the future from blowing up Westminster Palace.
Absolutely.
That's why we're doing it.
People don't see it that way at all. And a fourth man now arrested at the airport over the fires, Starmer fires. And this is when it seemed to be very odd, didn't it? They burnt an old car of his, they burnt an old flat of his, and they burnt his house.
Yes.
Very odd. That they're investigating whether this was a load of Russians.
Yeah.
But it actually was a load of Ukrainians.
Yeah. I mean, some of them quite like Russia, don't they, famously?
Yeah, that's true.
I reckon it's probably Putin. Sounds about right.
So I think it
sounds about right.
Sounds about right.
If there was a kind of, a local landmark in the area that they might have visited beforehand as well.
Yeah, it does sound like it was definitely planned. It wasn't just some lonely chap who's getting a bit bored.
It's also kind of silly. It's kind of Russian silly. They do camp quite well.
They do,
when it comes to things like this, they go really old school.
Yeah, this is old school.
Some of them one of them was wearing a big fedora.
And carrying an umbrella.
Yeah, glasses and a fake moustache.
Yeah, that was that. How did you know?
Definitely the Russians.
Definitely the Russians. Let's take a quick break. Cody and I'll be back in just a moment.
UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here, and with me is Cody Darla, and we're going through the papers for Tuesday. And let's have a look at the Telegraph now, if we can. Police in a major new hunt for Madeleine McCann.
You sound a bit disappointed.
Do you know what? There are so many children that go missing. I tell you what I'm disappointed in is that all these resources, all these years, all this money has been spent on a little white blonde girl, and you know, it's enough now, right? It's how many years on, and they are still going on about this one child.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, do you not think it's because they've spent so much money? They're just like, we've spent so much money.
Yes, but it's enough. Just stop. I mean, every year they do a review and every year they give them more money. But you're only supposed to get more money if there are really any other threads that you can pull.
Yeah.
You know, police in a major new hunt for Madeleine. More than 20 sites to be searched today, including a house linked to the German suspect, who I thought had been ruled out. This is 30 German police officers, along with forensic specialists, will examine a site on the outskirts of Praia-de-Luz, which is where she went missing, where convicted paedophile Christian Brunecker was living at the time. But I thought he'd said, I mean, he's already admitted to so much, but he said he didn't do anything to her. And why wouldn't you just admit it?
Well, it's like, is it Ian Brady? They kind of get off on it, don't they?
Yeah, I suppose so.
He doesn't sound like a great guy.
But I mean, hundreds of children go missing a month, and this one little girl has had so much. It was in 2007.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy, isn't it? I do wonder I mean, we just love a story, don't we? There's nothing more compelling than this story, and it's like, I think it is just a kind of it's like the little girl
now. John Bennett, what's her name, the beauty queen in America, Bennett Ramsey.
Yes, yeah.
Who went missing?
Yeah.
And again, children go missing all the time, but it's for some reason these two little white blonde girls get all the attention. There's Gary Lineker there. Relaxed figure while celebrating his son Harry's wedding in Ibiza.
Yeah, he's got his post-BBC glow.
He's got his
post. That's a man that's not got the BBC breathing down his neck anymore. Look at him, he looks so happy.
That's how I felt when I left as well.
I think that's how everyone feels when they leave. Like, oh my God, you realise that it was just sort of... The prison door was left open, you just never left.
Yeah, my brother spent all of his career at the BBC. He was totally institutionalised. And he's now just gone, I think I was institutionalised. I'm going, yeah. But there you go. Fake online cancer cures killing patients. Cancer patients are dying after following fake cures peddled online, according to world's top doctors. AI-generated content and influence have persuaded cancer patients to reject conventional medicine in favour of intermittent fasting, essential oils, oxygen treatment and new diets. I mean, this is just... I mean, even Mr. Technology, Steve Jobs, went this route, didn't he?
Yeah, it feels like this is like natural selection at its finest.
Yeah, listen, if you want to do it, but do it alongside conventional.
Yeah, like also you kind of understand if someone's like terminally ill and there's always a sort of... It's quite, you know, it's a bit of a trope, isn't it? Yeah, it's like a last resort, but yeah.
But then you will have tried everything, all the medical routes first. Steve Jobs absolutely just said no to all.
Really?
Yeah, with his
he
cancer.
was a bit of a yogi, though, wasn't he?
But he's Mr. Technology, for goodness sake, and he absolutely turned his back on. And on his deathbed, he said, "I regret that." Because
oh, that's got to hurt.
That's got to hurt.
That's got to sting.
Yeah, because he's
like, you sure he wasn't talking about like the iPad?
Yeah. No, he went, maybe I should have tried all that. Maybe I should have tried all that.
I at least at that point keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
I would have at least don't say it.
Don't say it.
Think it. Don't say it.
Yeah, and then just let people think that you did what
exactly
you wanted
that you
to
really
do.
lived it how you wanted.
Yeah.
Don't say I made a terrible mistake. Don't make those be your last words.
No.
That's embarrassing.
That is. But also, why? I mean, I feel so sorry for people who've got cancer, but please, just go the the medical route.
Please
and
go
try
and see
something
your
else.
AIGP. Go and see them.
And they would recommend that you actually did proper conventional medicine.
Hang
it's
on.
there for a reason.
This is AI telling people to do that. Is this AIGP?
Yeah.
You should try using essential oils.
Yeah, this is AI-generated content, so be careful. I know.
Everything's
we can't
going to
trust them.
pieces.
I know. We can't trust them. But yeah, please just try all the conventional stuff. It's like people I know that go, oh, I've got such a headache. I said, do you want a headache pill? Oh, no, I don't take them.
Yeah.
They were invented
So true.
to take that pain away. Why have an aspirin?
Yeah. I think
I can't bear it. It makes me so cross.
People find strange hills to die on, yeah. They try and resist. There's a level of pain that I think people enjoy getting through.
Or
but
just,
I think you're
just
so right.
mentioning it. If you took an aspirin, you wouldn't even have to say anything.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say, like, I've got friends who, when they have a headache, they'll do, like, 15 squats instead of taking paracetamol. the Steve Jobs attack.
Yeah, the Steve Jobs effect, yeah. No, it's just, oh, no, I don't. Why? Oh, I don't like taking painkillers. Right, so if you break your leg, I'll just tell the hospital then, shall I? Just don't give me. They don't like painkillers. Why not? It kills pain.
Well, swirling a big glass of Pinot Grigio.
Oh,
I assume.
Potentially. Right, let's have a look at The Guardian. Starmer pledges to make Britain battle ready. Yeah, I mean, he was droning on earlier on. He didn't actually say very much. Etna erupts. This is Mount Etna, the largest active volcano in Europe. Those images are, let me just, if you are watching, I'm sorry. Well, the reason I'm having to do this is because our vision mixer has gone to sleep, I think. But no, I'm joking, it's not working. Sorry, Anna. The technology isn't working. She's trying to get it working, so I'm holding that up. If you can see that, you can see all the smoke and stuff coming out of Mount Etna. So there you go.
It's quite amazing. I think this must be the only picture in like the last 6 months showing an explosion that isn't like a hospital or school in Gaza.
Absolutely. I mean, this is an extraordinary image. The largest active volcano in Europe, and there's lots of people going, oh, this was not the right day to go and see Mount Etna. So that'll be them leaving. It's very interesting, lovely, fantastic images. Yeah, so they're covering as well an alarm over the rise in fake remedies for cancer. And are you aware of who Mr. Beast is?
Yeah, I am. Only in the sense that he's a massive YouTube guy. He's now, the richest YouTuber.
He's the richest,
ever.
I mean, like, to hundreds of millions.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How did that happen?
I don't know.
Do you know? Do we know anything about it?
No, I think, I actually, annoyingly, this is, you've thrown me, the ball's in my court. This is my area of expertise.
This is your area.
And I'm letting the side down.
You are.
I think he's just a kind of a conventional YouTuber. I think he's one of the first YouTubers. Does a lot of
silly stuff with his friends.
Silly stuff, yeah. Probably. I'm not sure with his friends, but I think he's maybe does some like pranks. He's not like offered to kind of beat anyone up, which is kind of traditional YouTuber route. You know, they have like boxing matches. Right. I don't think he's that kind of guy.
But he did the TV show. I don't know if you watched it. I watched it and I loved it. Beast Games.
Oh.
Did you not see Beast Games? Okay.
So that was Mr. Beast.
That was Mr. Beast. I recommend you to see. I think it's on Netflix. Okay. So either Netflix or Amazon. I can't remember which one. But with his money, he was giving these incredible prizes out. So it's a bit like
Supermarket Sweep.
No, it was. What was that thing in? Oh gosh, I can't remember what it was called.
Squid Games.
Thank you, Squid Games. So it was like that, but for real. Or nobody got killed. But it was like that, but
horrifying.
For real. So thousands of Americans were invited to go along and play this, and at each stage, some of them got knocked out, and things would happen to them. They would drop through a hole in the thing, and they turned on each other.
Okay, nice.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it, because the thing that annoyed me the most, and I do apologise to my American listeners, I do love you all, but just within day one or day two, these Americans are going, yeah, but I love you. You're such a close friend, and they're going, you met 20 minutes ago. Why? You know, will you take £1 million $1 million if you press a button there and that 15 people go down a hole. You get the million.
Oh, wow.
And all of those people go and they're going, oh no, please don't, I love you. And I know I love them too much. And so these people were turning down millions of pounds because of some fake, oh, we met 20 minutes ago, but we love each other kind of stuff.
Oh, it's dystopian purely because they're being filmed as well.
But it was hilarious. You've got to, honestly, if you want to...
That sounds like exactly the kind of thing I would love.
You would love it.
I
spent the most of the time watching this just laughing my head off. But it's all to do with Mr. Beast, and he supplied the money for it, and he's probably made a fortune from this program because there will be other series of it. But please watch it.
Okay,
it is genius.
It's on the list. It's straight on the list.
It is so funny. All these fake friendships immediately were absolutely brilliant. Right, Cody and I have got to take a break, but we will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you, and with me is Cody Darla, who's a comedy writer, comedian and podcaster and TikToker, and thoroughly nice chap. Let's have a look at the Mirror. And again, this is new Maddie search. A fresh police hunt for missing Madeleine McCann begins today near where the tot disappeared. This is to do with this Christian Bruckner, I think is how you pronounce that, a German chap. There's ruins and water storage tanks will be searched. She was 3 years old when she vanished in May 2007. I suppose if it brings closure, but it's just on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, I wonder what her parents like. Do they? Would you get optimistic? I mean, not optimistic, you know, but like, I wonder if they.
I suppose. I mean, look, if you were the parent, you would want to know what happened. But I just, there are so many parents with missing children who don't have if 1% of the money or time or effort put into them, and that, you know, they deserve to know too. Yeah. But they never will.
This is true.
The Daily Mail. Tory warnings over backdoor blasphemy law. Kemi Badenoch warned of the impact of a creeping blasphemy law last night after the conviction of a protester who set fire to a copy of the Quran. Hamid Hosken, 50, shouted a rude word, Islam is a religion of terrorism, and Quran burning while holding up a flaming copy of the holy text.
Yeah. I love this headline because it's just the Daily Mail and I guess Kemi Badenoch and that ilk just defending inadvertently a man who said that Islam's a religion of terrorism and burning the Quran and being a generally like a literal awful person. But they somehow, because it's through this blasphemy law, and now it's become a free speech issue. Like, he's been convicted anyway of being, I think, under some actual law. I mean, you know, that's like...
So he was found guilty of a public order offence, motivated by hostility towards members of a religious group, namely followers of Islam. So, yeah, he hasn't, you know, I mean, look, he has been prosecuted, and it was a public order offence.
Yeah.
And I think that people would be offended if, let's say, an Islamic person set fire to the Bible.
Exactly.
That they would find that offensive.
Yeah.
And it is an offensive... It is a thing to do to offend.
Exactly.
And it's for no other purpose but to offend.
The mechanism through which it's been done is what they're saying is spooked them out. I mean, I don't really know. Like I say, it's a public order offence. I think Robert Jenrick's position was that it had been repealed by Parliament before, But it's not someone accidentally stumbling into a blasphemy law because they've said something inoffensive and are being dragged through the justice system. This is a nutter who's clearly incredibly unpleasant and means an entire group of people
and
harm.
wanted to harm an entire group of people.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Whether you agree with them or not, I just don't think that there will ever be a blasphemy law.
No.
I think it's been rejected by the Tories. It's been rejected by Labour, and I just don't see it happening. No. I really don't. So I think that is somebody literally pouring fuel on the fire.
Yeah, unlike the Daily Mail.
Yeah. The Eye, British over 18s offered a taste of military life with a gap year in the Army, Navy and RAF. Do you fancy that?
Yeah, it's exactly what I need.
Yeah.
It's exactly what young people need these days. They're wandering around the streets of Britain. They're all soft. Just you drinking their Coke Zeros. You know, they're Krispy Kremes. They're soft.
Doing TikTok videos.
Yeah, doing TikTok, posing with friends, having a good time. No, get them rolling in some mud with a wooden rifle. That's what they need.
I tell you what, if anyone were thinking of doing a gap year with the military, choose the RAF.
Oh, yeah.
Choose the RAF because they stay in better hotels.
Yeah, they're the soft boys of the armed forces.
Honestly, I had the opportunity when I went to Somalia to do some stuff, and they said, you know, Army or RAF, RAF, because the Army have a penchant for digging trenches and living in tents, right? And the RAF stay in hotels.
Yeah, they're always wearing like crisp white shirts.
I'll do the hotel. And because of food poisoning and things like that, we had to go to a 5-star hotel on the coast.
Oh, what a shame! It was really the RAF there as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Because if they got food poisoning or whatever, they wouldn't be able to carry out their duties. So
don't let the Daily Mail catch wind of that. That's what this new defence budget's going towards. 5-star meals for the RAF.
It was. I mean, it was a pretty unpleasant job that I was doing, but it was very pleasant stay.
Yeah, we hear 5-star.
Yeah,
there's no coming back from that.
It was very nice. School children should be taught about the work of the armed forces in order to increase recruitment. Defence Review states, with school leavers offered a paid year with the military. DoD asked to work with the D of E to develop an understanding of armed forces amongst young people. You could do a lot worse. It's the years that I spent working with the military were the best I've ever had in my life. They were the most fantastic people, the most brilliant, honestly, just the most wonderful people, and adventure and things like you could do an awful lot worse than spend a year working with the military.
So what were you working with them on? Foreign corresponding.
Yes, that sort of stuff. I was sort of embedded before embedded became a word, embedded.
Okay.
Yeah. So I used to travel around wear uniform.
Oh wow.
Pretend to be a soldier, which I wasn't.
Really?
Because it was safer than dressing as a civilian.
Oh, I see.
And I spent years working with them. I used to work on the British Forces Broadcasting Network, and travelled the world, and just the best people. Wow. RAF, Navy, and I have a brother who's a naval commander in a submarine as well.
Okay.
He's so I mean, I don't come from a military family at all, but they are the most incredible human beings. Those people who choose to work for the military, they're the kindest people, the nicest people. I honestly can't recommend them enough, and I couldn't recommend going and spending a year and having a bit of fun with them either. Be brilliant. I think a lot of young people would get a lot of joy out of it. Yeah. Not necessarily for a career in the military, but there are so many excellent jobs in the military as well,
Yeah.
especially if you're into computers or things like that. This new cyber security area that we're going into, drones, AI, all of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff there.
Well,
but
we'll
you'd
see.
have to be...
Well, when it's pumped full of sort of depressed millennials
Yeah,
like me.
let's see
thanks to
how
this new
it
scheme.
goes.
Yeah. That'll soon turn
to be honest,
around.
I think you're too old. I don't think that you're the
Ouch.
demographic that they're going for.
Yeah. I've got dodgy knees now.
You've
I'm
got
having to come
dodgy
to terms
knees.
with that.
You haven't got a spurs.
Yeah, I'll tell
like
that to
Donald
Vladimir
Trump.
Putin face to face.
Yeah. But then on the Metro, there's an entirely different sort of story, which belies everything.
In
that
case
I'd
anyone was
said.
tempted to join the army.
Bullied, it says in inverted commas, soldier dead in 3 weeks in bed at a barracks. I find that really difficult to. I mean, I don't disbelieve it, but I find it very difficult to imagine that would be the case. No evidence of suicide, says the medic who found him, and post-mortem fails to uncover a cause of death. Body of a soldier reported missing was found 3 weeks later in bed at his barracks. I can't believe that. I mean, father of three's family said they have so many questions about his death, and quite clearly, how could he have been left in his barracks unless they were off on exercise or they were off. His whole regiment or platoon were off doing something else, and didn't see that he was in bed. I think there's a lot more to that story. But I think that there's got to be much more to that. I can't figure out what's happened there. That was in Catterick. The FT. Musk launches 300 million share offer for XAI in a bid to refocus on business. I think that's in a bid to make some money.
Yeah.
Since he's lost quite a lot of it.
He's getting really bad at doing that.
Yeah. Well, he's been losing so much, hasn't he, through share value and things like that, particularly of Tesla.
Mm.
So ability to understand why AI behaves as it does will be crucial in assessing everything. Sale aims for $113 billion valuation, staff to sell stock to investors, and startup owns social media service. Don't understand that.
Yeah, it's all musky AI, billions, millions
the world's
of dollars.
richest man returns to his business empire in the race to develop artificial intelligence. Did you see him in the White House when he was being said goodbye to? Yeah.
And his sort of strange ketamine addiction.
Yes.
Yeah, he's been spaced out for months.
He looked really unwell. And he said that it was his son punched him in his eye, but the story is that it was the head of the Treasury, Steve.
Was it really?
Was it Barrett? I can't
Besant
remember.
or
something like that.
Besant.
Besant. I think
he punched him in the...
Allegedly. That Musk shoved him, and then the rumours from the White House is that Besant clocked him. And
he blamed it on a 5-year-old.
Who everyone can believe would punch him in the eye. Apparently he said to his son, PYXZZY, whatever his name is, go on, son, punch me in the eye.
Yeah, that's what he said in the White House, in the Oval Office. He was
but
like, I just told him to punch me in the eye. And
I'm not sure a 5-year-old could give a grown man a black eye.
Yeah, maybe
he's the same kid who was going, "You're not the president."
Yeah, that's right. I reckon a 5-year-old could, but it is kind of shocking that Elon Musk would kind of he'd more willingly promote the idea of his 5-year-old son wanting to punch him in the face more than having a disagreement with the head of the Treasury. It's like, no, don't worry, the Treasury didn't do this. It's just my son who clearly hates me.
I love the idea of Steve Besant punching him in the eye. I mean, I don't know if it's true. That is just a rumour coming from the White House.
Yeah, you don't want Elon Musk on this show. You don't want his lawyers getting involved.
Elon Musk followed me somewhere on some...
Down like a dark alley?
No. On some social media thing.
Wow.
But it probably wasn't him. I just ignored it. But it probably wasn't him. But it said Elon Musk is following. I thought, no, he really isn't.
He might do.
And if he is, not interested. Mate.
Yeah, get out of town.
Yeah, I'm too old to have babies now.
Yeah. Anyway. 2 letdowns this week. He's been sacked from the White House, and Petrie's not interested.
There you go. It probably wasn't him, but anyway, that's what it said. Cody and I are going to take a quick break, but we will be back in just a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here, getting huskier and huskier by the second. But with me in the studio is Cody Darlow, whose voice is a couple of octaves higher than mine, so that's
yes,
all right.
it is, yeah. So that's going to confuse the listeners.
That'll confuse the listeners. Cody is a comedy writer and a podcaster, and it's on TikTok. Please check him out. Daily Star, they've gone more serious recently, and they've said that, again, they've gone with the Maddie search shock. Police will today launch a new hunt for clues in wells, land and at a cottage near where Madeleine McCann vanished. I mean, I thought the Portuguese police had already done this at the time she went missing.
Yeah, but it's the Germans are involved now.
Because of Brunica or Christian.
Yeah, I guess so. But you can imagine the Germans being Germans. They'll be like the Portuguese. No offence to them, they didn't do it properly.
Well, in fact, there's a lot of criticism, isn't there, at the time of the stuff that they did.
Yeah. But I mean, they probably had a similar attitude to you now. They're like, it's just a little white blonde British girl.
No, that isn't my attitude. To be fair,
you don't care about Madeleine McCann. We understand it. You're a big advocate for child disappearances.
But if there was fairness in the world, the same amount of effort would be put into every little girl that goes missing.
Yeah, I see. Okay, nice correction.
That's the correction. Images again of Lineker, this time drinking tequila out of a bottle or whiskey or something. Eat cake and stay slim. That's a lie.
Yeah, that's all we have of that story.
That's all we have.
What a tantalising headline. Yeah. Eat cake and stay slim. Yeah, Eat cake and slim. Slimming cake.
Oh, slimming cake. No such thing.
No.
Okay, and do you have a very expensive watch?
No, I don't.
You don't have a 285 grand Rolex?
No, I've been in two minds whether to make the leap and buy one. I must admit, no, 285,000 Rolex. I've been looking at.
Yeah. Or there's a £300,000
That's
Patek.
the other one I'm thinking about actually. Marcus Rashford. I mean, again, I don't really understand why this is on the front page. Marcus Rashford, famous footballer, owns expensive things.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you had that sort of money.
Yeah.
Because people always say to me, "Oh, what would you do if you won the lottery or whatever?" And it'd be a miracle because I don't buy the ticket. But I wouldn't buy that stuff.
No.
I really genuinely wouldn't. I don't spend any money on stuff like that. I've had this watch for years. It's a Michael Kors, so it's 100 quid, whatever. But I've had it for years. But I don't spend. I couldn't spend £300,000 on a watch. It would make me cry.
Yeah. I would invest every single penny into finding Madeleine McCann.
Would you?
If I won the lottery.
Every penny.
Every penny.
Oh,
would go straight.
Not other children.
No. Only
Madeleine
McCann.
McCann.
It's all
I don't care.
All on red.
Only care.
Yeah.
Okay. But would you? I mean, like people say to me, "Well, would you buy a new car?" And I think, no. I like my old Mini. It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'd get an electric Mini. But I don't think I could.
Yeah, but you were just saying that you're not financially.
I'm not
motivated,
financially motivated.
So maybe you're a bad example.
Maybe.
That's why you don't buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah. Do you?
No. I for a while I was worryingly addicted to scratch cards.
Were you?
Yeah. The Lotto app, it makes it so easy. They should ban that thing. They really should, because it's like it doesn't feel like real money.
For people like you.
For people exactly like me, they do all the visuals now. It's like proper immersive game.
How do you scratcher on?
Well, it's like digital thing. It is a scratch card, but
isn't the fun though with a coin and?
Yeah, but it's like it's 2th century now. You want it on a screen.
You young people can't be doing that.
You
don't have coins.
No, we don't have coins, and also you've got that weird grey fluff that you've got to blow off. And no one's got time for that. You want a kind of.
Did you ever win anything?
I once won £60 and immediately reinvested it and lost it all, which is why I had to stop. Because at that point I was like, I'd lost £10. I'm like, oh, I could cash out with £50, but that's really embarrassing because I just had 60. So I'm just going to keep going, and I lost it all. Which is weird. You wouldn't think the gambling industry would be designed that way, but
no, but it's funny that.
It's funny that.
No, I just I just don't think I would go and buy. In fact, I know I wouldn't go and buy a watch. I mean, so I was once bought a very nice watch. It's in my. It's locked away somewhere.
I mean, watches are a
weird.
Why
would I wear it?
Do become obsessed with it. I think a watch is a bit like a car, isn't it? It's like a bit of machine. Like I can see why you would become.
I think it's
obsessed.
I think it's showing off.
Yeah.
It's just saying, look how rich I am.
I mean, it is basically that, isn't it, for your wrist?
And I don't know why you'd want to just tell people you're rich, because surely you then get mugged. There was all the Rolex muggings, wasn't there, in London?
I mean, no surprise. I mean, if you've got a brand
you're
built
walking around with a house, basically, on your wrist.
People are losing hands left, right and centre.
Yeah, and then it's just like, I could buy a house with that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
No, stop it. It's just greed. Stupid. The Sun newspaper, Brooklyn bites Beck.
I have no idea what that's about.
I have no idea what that's about.
Brooklyn Beckham?
That's him. With his missus?
Yeah.
Don't care. Right, again, the Sun goes with radar search and dig for Maddie. Police will, today, so that is Tuesday, start a fresh dig for Madeleine McCann's body. She's been there since 2007. I'm not holding out much hope, really.
Yeah.
The Daily Express. Budget delay won't cut the mustard as Russia threaten.
Is this the Daily Express advocating for tax rises, or?
I don't know. Former Army Chief attacks the PM for failing to confirm 3% defence spending. We need to be at least at 5%.
Oh, God, these people are ridiculous. I don't understand. This same paper is a sort of... And this is what I was thinking about this earlier. Like, I bet the pensioners who can afford not to have the winter fuel allowance and are now probably going to accept the winter fuel allowance are the same people saying that we should go bigger on defence. Like, we should absolutely spend more on defence. Yeah. And Keir Starmer was like, we don't have any money.
We literally don't
have any money. Like, this morning on his big Radio 4 interview, it was literally like, the country needs to be war ready. And Nick Robinson was like, when are we going to get to 3%? He was like, I don't know. And then in the next breath, he was like, so let's talk about winter fuel. And he's like, this country needs so much money, and everyone is asking for so much money. I kind of feel a bit sorry for Starmer. I'm like, you can't commit to 3% because you've got pensioners breathing weekly down your neck.
Also, doctors, junior doctors who always said they wanted 30% and said they'd come back for their 30%, are coming back for their 30%.
Yeah.
But I've had a look at the, because this is how exciting my life is, at the spending review. We've got a new spending review coming up this is glazing over. The new spending review coming up on June the 11th. So I looked at the last one that we did. We are broke.
Yes.
I mean, literally, we don't... Our debt is somewhere in the region of £98,000 per household.
Yeah, God, it's like a student loan.
That's our debt.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think they need to create a little pipeline for all the pensioners to be like, you could donate your winter fuel payment to the defence of this country.
Yeah.
If it's like that, maybe some would do it. But I bet they wouldn't. They'd be like, no, I want this 300 quid. Yeah. We need to fill up the four-wheel drive. I'm sick of them. Well, I'm really sick of it.
Yeah, but there aren't many that have got that.
I bet there are. There'll be more than you think. There are. I'm sick of it. I don't get a fuel allowance. I'm stone cold broke. Yeah. Think about the TikTokers.
I think about the poor TikTokers.
Yeah. There's no pension scheme with that Ponzi scheme.
They're probably thinking you're just mucking around playing with silly voices.
Yeah, which is what I am. Yeah. God, that's brutal. I love coming on here. Yeah, it's great. I think last time I was on, you commented on my hairline and lack of six-pack. Now I'm having my whole career destroyed. Fair enough. I know how Starmer feels now, actually.
You're just too sensitive. You young people.
Can't say anything these days.
You can't say anything these days. You're just so sensitive. I think that... let me just check the time. What have I got? A minute. Is that a minute? A minute. I just have to check. So I've got 2 out times and it confuses me. So I do think that that there will have to be tax rises.
Yeah.
And I do think that will always, as usual, fall and make it harder for the poorer and not the richer.
Yeah.
I don't know when this Labour government is going to be brave enough to tax the billionaires.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I mean, I think there's more... I think there was a poll.
There's going to be no
there?
brain drain. Where are they going to go?
Exactly. Yeah, totally. But I think people are in support of a wealth tax. I think it's then just making sure they don't wriggle out of it, which rich people always do. Yeah. The irony that they're all British tax havens. They're all sticking their money in British tax havens. We're Britain.
Yes.
Just stop it. Can we not just say we were not doing those anymore?
That's where mine is. Cody, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
See you soon.
I'll limp out of the studio.
If he'll come back without his ego now, he's all been crushed by me. Right, coming up, it's just you and me for a whole hour. It is literally the only place on this radio station that does that anymore. So give me a call. It is the phone in, and it's your chance to talk back. So a question I'm asking is, if Labour were to become a one policy party, what policy would you want that to be? Would it be to protect the NHS? Would it be to stop immigration completely, or the boats completely? Would it be on the defence of the nation? Or isn't it as simple as that? Because some other parties do go on one policy. So what would yours be? Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good morning to you. It's the 3rd of June. Blimey. Anyway, it is the phone-in hour. So it's a full hour. There are no guests, nobody else but me and you. A couple of breaks, but that is it for the next hour. So please do take advantage of it. This is your radio station. This is your chance to talk back, and that's exactly what I want you to do right now. And it sort of got me thinking today with a couple of the stories that were around today, and that being the defence review, where we've got the defence spending review, I think, next week. The defence review that we heard today, talking about what we need to do in order to protect this country. And myself and the expert that I spoke to earlier, Simon Diggins, we both agreed that there really wasn't very much in this. It was all, talking the talk, but not really walking the walk. It's a bit lackadaisical. We could be in danger. And what Keir Starmer failed to do was to really tell the British public the situation that we're in. Because, mark my words, and I've said this for months and months and months, when it comes to the October budget, we are going to have to pay more. And we are going to be told that the reason we have to pay more in tax and other things is because of the change in the world order, what's happening in the world. The fact that we can no longer truly rely on America to come to our aid. They don't have to. Like I've said before, the Article 5 of the NATO agreement, which says, you attack one, you attack all, it's optional. It is not compulsory. And up until a few years ago, I thought it was compulsory, but it is not. It is optional. So America can opt out of that, and so can other NATO nations, by the way, if they so choose. So Donald Trump was right that we have neglected our defences. And by him saying you can't rely on me, it means that we've got no one else to rely on but ourselves and each other. And this war with Ukraine, which is taking extraordinary turns almost on a weekly basis now. We talked last week about it as well, how Germany was now allowing for their missiles to be used long range into Russia. We saw last night the night before, Ukraine attacking in a most audacious attack on Russian nuclear planes, or planes that can carry nuclear weapons, which Putin was saving. Putin has been saving his air force. He's barely used it at all, and he was saving these planes, presumably for a bigger attack on Europe. That's certainly what defence experts believe. Ukraine. I don't even know how they did it. It was taken 18 months of planning, and they put drones in the back of lorries, and these lorries then headed close to areas in Siberia, really deep, miles from Moscow. I flew from Moscow to Irkutsk, and it took hours. I think it was a 14-hour flight. It's a massive, it's a huge country. So this is right down in Siberia, nearer to the Chinese border, actually. So it's right down there. A lot of their nuclear preparations are done down in that region, and I wasn't there with permission, so I was very quickly removed by the FSB. But that's a different story. But they bombed these lorries. One of these lorries pulled up to a gas station, petrol station, and the doors were opened, and these drones flew out the back of this lorry. It's just unbelievable. And then blew up these planes. That lorry driver has been arrested, but a lot of people think that he didn't even know they were in there. This is, I want to see those plans. I want that film. I want to see that film. I don't know how they did it, but it's extraordinary. But look, that is a twist and a turn in this war. And there is a clause in Russia that if there is any attack on their nuclear capabilities, which these planes were, that Russia is therefore allowed to use a nuclear attack in return. So make no mistake, what happened, that bombing of those planes by Ukraine was hugely significant, and could have seen, or could still yet see, a massive turn for the worst in what's going on. So these stories that you hear, and you take them in isolation, don't mean very much. But when you start pulling them together with that knowledge that Russia has a clause written down saying you attack our nuclear facilities, we can use nuclear to attack you back, right? That is absolutely true. So we're in a rocky position here. Russia hates us. They literally hate us. They've talked about sending, some sort of wave, haven't they, that would finish off the country, or doing this and doing that, or bombs, whatever. So do we need to protect ourselves? Yes. Can we right now? Absolutely not. How quickly do we need to tool up? Yesterday. I don't think there'll be a direct attack on the UK. I don't. Not in conventional terms. But the potential for this to heat up is there, and we are not ready. Europe is not ready. We are not ready. And we can't rely on America. So defence spending has got to increase. But if it isn't a priority, we might as well not bother. We might as well not bother. I don't see the point. But, so would my number one priority be defence? Yes, because there's peace through power. There's peace through strength. And nothing else matters. Nothing else matters if we can't defend ourselves. But nobody believes it's going to happen. So everybody goes, well, we'll do it in a few years. Yeah, we'll pay a bit of lip service to it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. We haven't had a war in 80 years. What makes you think we're going to get one now? It's that attitude. So my number one priority probably would be in defence spending and preparing the country. But what would yours be? 0344 499 1000. Well, earlier on, Keir Starmer delivered his speech, didn't he? God, his voice. Oh, Lord. So wet, isn't it? Wetter than a haddock's bathing costume. Anyway, Beth Rigby from Sky, she asked him a question about what he would be prepared to give up in order to do the defence spending that needs to be done. And here's his answer.
Prime Minister Attlee was the Labour PM credited with creating the welfare state. You're the Labour PM that wants to create or be known for creating a warfare state, but you're not putting your money where your mouth is. NATO says members should commit 3.5% of GDP to defence spending by 2032, and you are not even committing 3% in the next Parliament. What is your choice? Is it properly funding defence, or is it cutting, reversing winter fuel cuts, or is it lifting the two-child benefit cap?
Let's start with Attlee, because he led a proud Labour government that was one of the founding members of NATO. And NATO, in the intervening 80 years, has been the most successful alliance in the world in terms of preserving peace. I stand here in that tradition, conscious that my job is not to reflect on the 80 years that NATO has kept the peace, but to make sure that NATO also keeps the peace for decades to come. And that is my responsibility, just as it was Attlee's responsibility in the first place, to have a government that was far-sighted enough to create NATO in the first place. Our commitment to NATO is huge in terms of the contribution we already make. As you know, we commit our nuclear capability to NATO for all of our allies and other capability. And we will have at the heart of this review a NATO-first approach.
So there you go, his capabilities. Look, it's a non-answer, right, to what I thought was a very smart question. I really admire Beth Rigby. I think she's brilliant, but and very tough. But it's all, none of this. It's just blah blah blah. It literally means nothing. So look, I want to know if you could choose the one policy that this party, that would get your vote, that you think that they should prioritise, what would it be? And I do suspect, and I genuinely do suspect, it is about immigration. I think everybody is really angry about the illegal migration, and look, I'm one of them. I will agree with that. I think that it is ridiculous that we had 1,195 people come across in one day. I mean, this is not sustainable. It is not sustainable, right? But is that your priority? Number one priority. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Let's go to Mark, who's in Lincolnshire. Mark, a very good morning to you. Just quickly, what would your priority be?
My priority, it has to be immigration, Petrie. I can't see. I mean, I've spoke on the station a few times about all this stuff, and for me, it always comes back to the same thing. You can't fix anything until you fix the immigration situation, and that includes,
You've been crushed by me. Right, coming up is just you and me for a whole hour. What's happening? Sorry.
What was that?
Hello, that was me, and it wasn't me, if you know what I mean.
Oh.
That was a recording going out. I think it's something that's going to be used tomorrow. But anyway, that's all right. So just carry on, Mark. So you've spoken before about this, and you don't think we can fix anything until we fix that.
Absolutely. I think everything within the country that's seemingly broken is all impacted immensely by immigration. You can talk about housing, you can talk about education, you can talk about schools, education, same thing. You can talk about the NHS. It doesn't really matter where you look within the country. It's all been impacted by the sheer fact that we've had 10 to 15 million people over the last 25 years or so.
Are you talking about the illegal, the people who are here illegally, or are you talking about all of the immigration?
All immigration. The illegal migration is obviously it's a major issue, but I consider the illegal migration more of a security issue than anything else.
I agree with you, and also the numbers are relatively. I mean, I'm not knocking them, but they are relatively small. We're talking 30 to 50,000 people in a year, which is still a lot. But the bigger issue is the 914,000 legal migrants that we get, right?
100%, and many of those that come in, perfectly legally will actually end up as being illegal because they'll be overstaying visas and what have you, because it's so easy to do that in this country. So we have at the end of the day, nobody truly knows the actual figure of how many illegal people are in this country.
No, and anybody who says they do is lying. It's a guess. At the very best, it's a guess.
What really needs to happen, anybody that gets in power, and I genuinely don't believe reform of the party that are going to do it, but essentially what you really need to be doing is an audit of the entire country and find out exactly who's in the country. That's the first job. The second job is actually having the metaphorical balls, if you like, to actually go through and deal with the actual problem, deport the people that should not be here. Whether that's 1 million people, whether that's 10 million people, I don't care at this point. It needs to be done. It's irrelevant to me anymore because, whether you get a load of left-wing activists on the march because they're not happy and you're racist and you're far right, or whether it's lawyers or wherever it is, if you're a party in charge of the nation, you have the ultimate power to do what needs to be done to enact this. Trump proves this. It's just as capable to happen and, just as likely to happen in this country if you...
Yeah, be very clear about what Trump's doing. He's not removing as many people as Biden did. And you can check those figures. They're that's completely factual. So he's not removing as many people. Admittedly, the border to the south, there are fewer people going across, right? So he's managed to achieve that. But as far as removals go, he's not doing as well as Biden did. And also, you've got to be so careful about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because you've got situations in America where people are being removed who shouldn't be being removed. And that is not acceptable. So while I agree with you, I think that it is such a complex and an incredibly difficult process, because everyone would have to be given due process. Everyone would have to have the right to say, no, I do have the right to be here, just in case there were mistakes made. Because it's not fair if there are mistakes made.
Well, this is why I say, Petrie, that you need a really good audit on the nation. You need to know exactly who is in the country, why they're here illegally, more to the point.
How would you even start? Because we have that. We do that every 10 years, don't we? But you can lie. right? It's just a piece of paper that you fill in. You know, where were you on this night, or what were you doing? But if people don't want to declare, how do you audit a country? I mean, listen, I'm not saying it shouldn't be done. I'm just thinking about the logistics of that and the cost of that, and you know, we all say what we think should happen, but how then do you take it to that next stage where it actually happens?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite honest about it. It's not going to be an easy task.
Yeah.
But where you're looking at, or where I would be looking at if I was in power, you know, in my wonderful dreamlike universe, if I was running the show, I mean, what I'd be looking at is really trimming back on the civil service. Really, essentially, I'd be honestly looking to get rid of quite a lot of the civil service, employing a specific team, using the funding from that, a specific team of however many is required to essentially, I mean, you're literally talking about, if it's required, having teams of people that are quite literally scouring the nation, you know, interviewing people, finding out people, doing background checks on people, looking into people, etc., which is why, you know, I've always been.
But that would take years. There's 60 million people. That would take years and years and years. And listen, I don't disagree with you. I'm not saying that is a bad idea. I'm just looking at the logistics of that, the years and the cost, how would that doesn't stop more people pouring in. You know, you're right. The security of this country is woeful. I mean, how anybody's threatened, how Russia looking at us and going, oh yeah, you're a big nuclear threat. We can't even secure our borders, right? So we're pathetic. But everything you're saying makes complete common sense. But I just can't see how it can possibly be done.
Well, it needs leadership that are willing to do it, leadership that accept the problems there in the first place. I mean, there is a reasonable amount of people that you could probably remove in a relatively short space of time that would be a lot easier to identify. Where you're going to have the real issue of people that, for example, are maybe not claiming benefits, that are maybe working illegally.
Exactly, and then hiding in the dark places, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That they're always going to be the major issue that you're going to have. You know, if you.
But allegedly, there are millions. I mean, the only time that they would come out of those dark places if you gave them a moratorium. If there was like, okay, we'll come out of the dark places. I think Boris Johnson either tried this or suggested this, and then we'll give you amnesty. That's the only way you know where they are, and then they've got amnesty and they stay. So.
But then you see, I would never vote for somebody that would do that, because I don't believe that they should have amnesty. If you've been,
but then you don't discover them.
Well, I think you can discover them. It would just take time.
What about an ID card scheme? A lot of that's being touted by Tony Blair at the moment. Because I think he's involved. But if we all had ID, then it would make it more difficult for people to live in the dark places.
It would do potentially, but would it really?
I'm with you. I don't think it would. Yeah.
If
I think it limits our freedoms and doesn't solve the problem. That's what I think.
Yeah, this is the whole problem. I mean, the way that I see it, consecutive governments, I'm never going to just put this onto Labour now. They've only been in power, just under a year?
Yeah.
14 years of the Tories. Every time you kind of almost sit here and you're scratching your head and you're banging your head against the wall, because it almost feels like they're intentionally creating problems in order to take away the rights of the citizens already here. That's how it always feels, and you can see this happening across Europe. You can see it, happening in the States and, essentially anywhere in the Western world. It seems to me that, as I say, Petrie, just, here's the problem that we're not going to address, i.e. immigration.
And it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, yeah.
Yeah, however, in order to fix it, we're going to do this, which means you get less of your rights again and again and again, until you very quickly find yourself with literally next to no right to do anything.
Yeah, literally we find ourselves chipped and being watched wherever we go. Yeah, listen, I agree with you, and like I said, Mark, I don't disagree with anything that you were saying. I just know that the next logical step, it would be so complicated and so expensive and take so long. And maybe that's why this problem doesn't get addressed. They just kick it down the road, don't they, to the next parliament or to the next government. It's never their problem. Mark, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. I've got to take a break because I'm late, but I will be back in a second.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning to you. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. Now, we are talking because of the stories today, the defence review and all of that, that we need to be spending more money on defence. There is no question about that. It's been neglected for so long because we just sat back and went, oh, we're at peacetime. There's other things to spend the money on. We don't need to bother with that. And we always had America, didn't we? So, they'll chip in if we get into trouble. We've since been told by Donald Trump that that is not a given. Do I think that he'd leave us on our own? No. Genuinely, I think that, I don't know. I can't tell with him. But would America under anybody else? No. Did we need to spend more money on defence? Absolutely. It has been a disgrace. All the years that I've worked in defence, I mean, it was getting cut year on year on year on year on year, every single year. When the review came through, I used to have to read all 300 pages of it, and it was just cut. And even that was 20, 30 years ago. So we've been cutting and cutting and cutting, and it's left us now on the bones of our bottoms, so to speak. So yes, we absolutely do. Just as a defensive mechanism, not as a fighting mechanism, but as a defensive mechanism. We have no defence. So that would, I think I would prioritise that were I in government, because without a safe country, nothing else matters, really. If we're not defended, we're nothing. So that would probably be a priority of mine. What would yours be? 0344 499 1000. Claire, I was just about to go to the phone, so I just remembered, Claire in Buckley sent this voice note. Let's have a listen.
Petrie, it's simple. Turn the boats back. Stop the migrant hotels. All the money we'll save from doing that can go towards our defence. But one of our politicians or one of our political parties has to actually have the backbone to do that. And I think at the moment there's only reform for us. Hopefully they'll get in, but we're going to have to wait another 4 years. So God knows what's going to happen to us in the meantime.
See, that's interesting. So that's what I was talking about reform earlier. It seems to have this sort of one major policy, right? Stop the boats. Stop the boats. That's what we're going to do. That's their one major policy. The tragedy is that one policy could very well win reform the next election in 4 years' time. But it's all the other things that reform plan to do. Nigel Farage has made absolutely no secret of the fact that he would like to sell off the NHS. None. But you'll forgive him that for the getting rid of the boats, stopping the illegal migration. But the other things that he comes with, and he was once a very, very close friend of mine, was out for a drink with him and chatting and everything, and said to him, they're having a pint, and said to him, what would you do if you were Prime Minister? He said, I'd sell everything. I'd sell the police, I'd sell NHS, I'd just sell it. So you've got to be very careful what you wish for, and voting on one policy is always a bad idea anyway. But with the boats, you're talking 30 to 50. They think it'll be higher this year than last year. So about 30,000 on average a year coming across on boats, which is way too high, and it shouldn't be happening. And there doesn't seem to be any real will to stop that from happening as well. And I think that's the frustration that most people feel with Keir Starmer is, oh, we're going to smash the gangs. No, you're not. It's rubbish. It's like whack-a-mole. You hit one, another one pops up. You know, it's just not going to work. So come up with another plan. I do think it's a difficult thing to solve. Claire's saying there, just send them back to France. Well, we can't do that anymore. And I say anymore because we could when we were part of the EU. But we can't now because of Brexit. But we could send them back. And that was all to do with the borders and Schengen and all of that. I mean, I could tell you if you want me to, but it basically, we were able to do that because we were part of the same space. Now that we've severed ties with Europe, we can't send the boats back without France's permission. And they're not giving permission. So we've landed in this place now, and everyone keeps saying, well, OK, just send the boats back, or just do this, or just do that. But a lot of those things have already been closed off to us. They are not possible to do where they may once have been. And maybe this is why governments can't fix it. Because they've left it too long, it's become too complicated, and they just don't know where to start. They don't know where to start. I've already said it 1,000 times. Set up hubs where people can apply outside of the country. Italy's doing it. Outside of the country, and then if they're accepted, they can come over. If they're not accepted, they have to go away. Because the only place at the moment that people can apply for refugee status or for asylum is on British soil. That's the law. And that's why you get so many people coming across on boats, because the only place they can apply is on British soil. That's it. So that's the only way they can do it. So set up hubs in other countries, pay them a fortune, whatever you have to do, and assess their asylum there. And then anybody who comes across the boat, on a boat, can be considered as illegal. Because at the moment, they can't until they've been refused. Right? And that's why they're not arrested when they arrive, because they haven't broken a law by arriving. They've broken a law by staying if they're refused. And that's why the real term for these people is irregular, not illegal, in court language, in legal language. So that's the situation that we're in. It's not as simple as people think it is, which is perhaps why it hasn't been solved. Kevin is in Basingstoke. Hi, Kevin.
Morning, Petrie.
Hi, morning.
Yeah, I want to make a comment about your first caller, Mark, said that all these immigrants coming over here are a drain on public services.
Mm-hmm.
if you come here on a work visa, you're not entitled to
no.
any public services. You can't claim benefits. You can't. You're not entitled to housing or. If you're working, you're paying national insurance, and they also have to pay a fee
to use the NHS
as well. And
not for education though, or for GP services, I don't think.
Well, I mean, I don't know about GP services. I mean, but anyway, they are paying, and also he said, "Oh, immigrants, we want less immigration." Before the Conservatives' hostile environment towards overseas students brought in 47 billion pounds. That dropped because the number dropped by 200,000, and we lost 15 billion pounds.
Yeah, that was when they said they couldn't bring dependents. Is that right?
Yeah, but their dependents are dependent on them. They're not dependent on the state. Their dependents couldn't claim benefits or anything.
But I mean, look, I completely agree with you, and you're absolutely right. And also, stopping legal immigration it would be foolhardy, because they pay those people, like you said, who are here on visas. They pay a lot of money. The problem seems to be that when people come over here on a visa and then decide they want to stay. And even if they don't go through the proper, because we're so lax here, that they do get to stay, and then there's a question on benefits and things like that. And there is a draw on benefits after, I think, a few years. People can claim benefits, and that is, I think, what people see.
Well, no, I mean, if you come here on a work visa for 5 years, you can reapply for another 5 or 10 years, but when you're on that work visa, you can't claim benefits for 5 years or 10 years. After 10 years, you can, but why shouldn't they be able to claim benefits? They've been paying tax for the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I'm playing devil's advocate here, right? Because if you've been here on a work visa for 5 years and you've paid in, and then you fall out of employment and you say, I am looking for employment, after those 5 years you can stay and look for that employment and claim benefits. You might end up claiming more from benefits than you've paid in. But I mean, that's the same for British people.
That goes for British people as well,
absolutely, and I agree with you, but for some reason that's okay.
Most people take out more than they put in.
They definitely do. They definitely do. I completely agree with you. The biggest draw on benefits is British people who haven't worked and don't want to work and won't work. But a lot of people see that it's othering, isn't it? And saying, well, if we didn't have that problem, then we wouldn't have this problem. But the problem is, if we didn't have those legal migrants, those workers that are coming over, then we wouldn't have as much money in the tax pot either. The illegal, on the other hand.
Well, I mean, we've got a massive, a declining birth rate, and a ageing population.
Yeah.
When the welfare state was first brought in, there was 5 people working for every pensioner.
Yeah.
Now there's 3 people working for every pensioner.
Exactly, and that's why we need those people to come in. I mean, look, I could talk about this all night with you, Kevin, because I do agree with you. But I do also, because this is where my brain works, I can see both sides and I can feel the other argument, which is why this programme is fair. Anyway, listen, I've got to take a break because I'm getting shouted at. Back in a sec.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. This is Talk and it's Petrie here with you. We're talking about priorities, basically. What would you want this government to prioritise? Tristan is in Southend-on-Sea, which I know well. Hello, Tristan.
Hello, Petrie. Good morning.
Good
Hope
morning.
you're keeping well.
Very well.
Okay. Yeah, so there's one thing I would increase spending on and three things I'd actually like to see clamped down on.
Okay.
The first one is we spend $59.9 billion on defence currently.
Yeah.
We only have 120 Challenger tanks at our disposal.
We have nine submarines.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? And we spend $7.7 billion on net zero. We've got to get our priorities straight. Yes, energy independence and so on sounds good, but we can't afford it at the moment. It should go on defence spending. The second thing I would do is put a DOGE unit into the NHS, which I'm no fan of whatsoever. It is a money pit. And the third thing is I would say, with immigration, do an amnesty for a start-off, then say anyone else comes in illegally, you're going to get the same as what you'd get in France, because it would be a good deterrent to come here in the first place.
Yeah, an amnesty might. Oh, I mean that could create millions and millions of people who can then, use the benefit system and use everything else.
It could, but if you gave them the same rights as someone who's legally immigrated, it wouldn't be a problem for a while. And at the moment, Vladimir Putin, he's 72 years old. Most people don't believe that. 72. If he pops his clogs tomorrow, so to speak, we've got problems because we don't know how radical his chosen successor is going to be.
Well, all you've got to do is listen to Peskov or Lavrov. They are bonkers.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, this is the problem. This is what why when we've affected or tried to affect regime change, and we've put people like Saddam Hussein in power, and then suddenly he turns out to be the worse.
Yeah. And the same with Iran in 1979.
Absolutely. And this is the issue that people think. Well, Putin won't last forever. He's still got probably 20 years in him if he's still well. There's some question about his health, but this man is a machine. He's not. He's also lacks any sort of human condition that might age him or might make it, because he's not a human being. But defence spending has been woeful in this country.
Since 1989, it's been terrible. Margaret Thatcher spent 5%, and Labour's 3% will not be reached until 2034. We have run out of time.
We haven't, absolutely, Tristan. We do not have the time to be fannying about like this. We really don't, because there's a lot of people in defence, a lot of people who are way more into it than I am, that I talk to, who are telling me we've got until 2027. Before he does something really crazy, and I don't even know if we've got that long. I mean, that audacious strike by Ukraine and that clause in it that everybody should know about with Russia. They did attack their nuclear capability, because those planes had the capability of carrying nuclear warheads.
Absolutely, and he's going to want revenge for that, and we're going to have to wait and see what happens here.
Absolutely.
It could be bad.
It could be. I mean, the thing is, we don't know what he's going to do, because conventionally, he's not going to do what we expect. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
And it could be to sever our underwater cables. It could be to cripple our bank accounts. It could be, because if we're fighting amongst ourselves on the streets because we haven't got any money or any food, then he doesn't need to bomb us.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm speaking about this with you, because you're the only one at talkTV with experience of war and seeing it firsthand yourself.
Yeah, nobody wants that. It's disgusting. It's that's the thing. And I always think that these politicians, that if their children were the first ones on the front line, they'd find peace.
Of course they would, but certainly they won't. It'll probably be lower class, if you excuse me using that expression, because I'm one of those. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really never them, and that's why they don't find peace. They won't find it. They don't need to, because it's not going to affect them. And it's also like all the bunkers that are around for the British, for the Parliament and everyone. The worst people in the country, frankly, in my view, to save. They're not. I mean, if you had to save any group of people in this country, would it be the politicians?
Oh, they'll save themselves, I'm sure.
Of course they will. There's bunkers everywhere. They've already got plans.
Yeah,
we know that they've got plans. They've got plans. The second that Putin, they're the ones that cause the fight, right? These are the people that cause it, and then they're the ones that are saved because they get to go to bunkers, and we don't.
Yeah, they'll be sorted.
They're fine, and they're the last people you want to save.
Yeah.
I want to save artists. I want to save actors. I want to save nurses. I want to save, culture. I don't want to save blooming politicians. Those are the people that should go into bunkers.
Yeah, we have to remember we're the country that Russia managed to get Novichok into. That could have been far worse.
Yeah.
Far worse.
Far worse. Thank goodness. I mean, that was exactly. We're hopeless. We're rubbish. Yeah. We're not terrifying, are we?
It would only take one dirty bomb in the centre of London, which you could easily get in, unfortunately.
Well, they don't need to get it in. Dirty. Yeah. They can pick up all the dirty stuff from hospital dustbins.
Yeah. Worrying times. Really worrying times.
It is, Tristan. But, let's hope that eventually we do pull our finger out and start defending this nation, I hope.
Yeah. I just hope we're not out of time, Petrie. I really do.
Yeah, so do I. But listen, it's wonderful to talk to you, Chris. You phone any time you like. I'd love to talk to you again. Let's take a break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, good morning to you. This is Talk and it's Petrie until the top of the hour. And we're talking about priorities, really. And listening to Keir Starmer going on today about the strategic defence review, and saying that we have to be on a war footing without really explaining why, without telling the story, without telling you guys really what position we're in and why we should be actually in a much better position than we are right now with defence. He's just saying, oh, we're going to have to spend more money and probably we're going to have to tax you more to do that. Well, nobody's going to be happy with that until we know, that, absolutely know what we're defending ourselves against, who we're defending ourselves against, and how we're going to defend ourselves. When they're talking about not spending even 3% of GDP until 2034 and not recruiting until the next election either. So it's like, come on. 70,000, just over 70,819, I think it is, soldiers in the British Army. I mean, it's just that's even below what the government say we should have, and more people are leaving every day than staying. We can't get anybody to want to join, and a lot of that is to do with the living conditions that our poor armed services are made to tolerate, and they're not looked after very well. So why would they stay? Why would they stay? They genuinely are the loveliest people. I can't even think of one soldier that I met that was horrible. Oh, really decent, good human beings mostly. And we don't treat them very well. But talking about priorities, so defence isn't a priority in this country. I don't know why it isn't, but it hasn't been for many years, and it isn't at the moment, and it should be. And instead, we seem to be prioritising a lot of things that really could wait, that are not as important. And in fact, I think it was Tristan that mentioned there, the net zero, that 7 billion. I mean, the 7 billion barely buys us a couple of, submarines, but it'll do something. But there's a lot of things that we shouldn't be prioritising on right now. If you're going to tell us we're on a war footing, then let's ditch that net zero by 2030 or whatever it was, and move that to, a couple of decades away. Don't lose it altogether, because I think net zero is probably where we ought to be, but I think right now that isn't the priority. So what would you prioritise if you were in this government or were running this country? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Melissa is in York. Hello, Melissa. How are you?
Oh, hang on. Hello. Sorry, I had to take you off speaker.
Oh.
I just wanted to... Hello, Petrie, by the way.
Hello.
I just want to regroup on actually what the big question is. Mm-hmm. Should Labour focus on small boats rather than defence? Mm-hmm. Well, the Conservatives were all about stop the boats, stop the boats, stop the boats. That was pointless. Mm-hmm. Then we had Rwanda, where one person went voluntarily.
I think it was 3. I seem to remember it was 3, but we had to pay them to go.
Well done.
Yeah,
3.
I think it was 3.
I am now getting to the point as a British citizen all my life that actually Rwanda sounds great. I don't know how I can be moved there quickly enough. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not about Labour, it's not about Conservatives, it's not about any of it. It is, we have opened the floodgates. We're an island. We were in the best position. We're not anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like literally, ridiculous. We had the legal right to turn the boats round and send them back to France before we left the EU.
The French, because they're in a safe place.
Yep. But we left the EU, so we no longer have that right. We no longer have that right. But nobody told anybody that during Brexit.
The French, but it's a laissez-faire, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that we're in this situation.
And nobody thinks it's sustainable, right? Nobody thinks this level of crossing these levels. This is not sustainable. I don't think there's a person in this country that thinks, only another 1,195 people in a day. Oh, that's fine. Nobody thinks that's right.
1,200 in a day. Hooray!
Yeah, nobody thinks that's right. Nobody. But
we don't know who they are.
No.
We don't know anything about them.
Our security is hopeless. It is why we bother having passport control, and visas and things. I don't know, because our security is rubbish.
It's pointless. Yeah. It's absolutely pointless.
Yeah.
And then people who are struggling in this country are told there aren't houses, there aren't jobs, there aren't this, there aren't that. And it's like, it's a race to the bottom, but yet we're bringing everybody else in going, woohoo, you know, have a go at this. You know, it's ridiculous.
But we're not processing quickly
originally.
enough. We're not processing quickly enough. We're not processing robustly enough, and we're not returning. We're not returning people who fail. I mean, Labour will tell you that they've returned more people, and I believe they have actually in the last year they've been in power than the Tories did in their last year in power. I believe that is true, but they keep it very quiet because they don't want. Some people on the runway going, don't return these people, so we do. But they're returning the easy returns. They're returning people to Albania, which they've got no right to be here because Albania is not at war. So the people that they're not returning are those who claim to come from Afghanistan or... Yeah, exactly.
Cocaine and crack.
Yeah, to the people they can't return at the moment because there's no safe third country. So that is the issue. So they can return as many people as they like, but they're not returning the difficult returns. They're returning the easy ones.
No, of course not. But that's the whole way that this country operates.
Yeah.
I remember talking to you months ago about the way the prison system was working and operating and all the rest of that.
Yeah.
And I was saying that, there has to be a stop, where you can't really be putting someone in prison for a TV license and then letting out murderers. Do you know what I mean? There is something very, very wrong.
The balance is wrong. It feels like we're out of kilter, doesn't it? It feels like,
100%.
Why are we worrying about...
who was forced out of London, and now if I went back to London, it wouldn't look like the London I knew.
Mm. See, maybe I don't see London because I live in London. I kind of don't. I don't see any real difference. I just don't. I mean, I've never lived in a predominantly white area, I guess.
Is that where we're going? Right, okay.
But I thought that's what you meant by London would look very different.
No. I'm just saying that smaller... You've hit something there. Smaller places are looking very different now. London was always great to me, but it's the last place in the world I'd want to live now.
Really?
Because I don't think I'd even recognise it.
I suppose for those of us who have been here the whole time, maybe the changes have been slow and incremental or not really bothered me. I mean, I don't...
Were you born in London?
No, but I've lived in all my adult life, really. Apart from the years that I lived in Germany and around the world. But, yeah, most of my life I've been a Londoner.
Military?
I worked with the military. I wasn't in the military. But yeah, I worked in defence, so I was flying all over the world.
Lucky you.
Yeah. They weren't the nicest places in the world.
I recognise London, and I was outpriced years ago.
Yeah.
And now, you only have to get on a inflatable and land on the docks.
Yeah, but they still don't. They still can't afford to live in. I mean, the reason people have been priced out of London is because of Russian oligarch money and Chinese money. No, it is because Chinese money is buying all the flats at inflated prices. You go to Hammersmith, there are whole blocks there that are investment properties. There's nobody living there. You don't see lights on.
Have you been to York, Petrie?
When I was a child.
Come back.
Has it changed?
I don't know what it was like when you were a child.
Yeah, I don't remember. We went to York Minster on a school trip. I liked it. I thought it was lovely.
Lots of foreign students.
Mm. But they spend a lot of money.
People who live here are being pushed into the suburbs, and there's no housing.
But that's landlords buying the houses in the centre and renting them to foreign students. Foreign students can't afford to buy the properties. But they're paying inflated rents. Right? They're not buying. Foreign students aren't buying.
No, but that's what they're building for. Yeah?
Yeah, because foreign students bring in a
The only building that's
ton load of
going
cash.
on in York is for foreign students.
Yeah, because those foreign students bring in a ton of cash.
They pay more.
Yeah, exactly. And
But
that's what the
it's
universities
destroying the city.
want. Yeah.